What's guys? Welcome back to another one of my YouTube videos. And in this video, I am going to be doing random crap, so yeah. Welcome to season 4 of my nostalgia series. So, yeah, I made it. Only 3%.
Kansas City International Airport has just been evacuated, with some passengers forced to walk out onto the apron and some stuck in planes on the taxiways because of a bomb threat and seemingly incredible one considering the response. On Flight Radar, we can see tons of planes stranded on the taxiway because of the postpone they can't move to a gate. As of now, that's all we know is what happened. Kansas City.
Unfortunately, we are getting to the point where things seem to be getting worse and bigger because the stock market is absolutely crashing. I mean, most random companies like Chipotle and Netflix seem to be taking over this to the point where anyone who has any money in the stock market right now is probably saving all of it. The thing is, Trump made it sound like this will be running all the time, and at this point, I'm not saying it's going to happen. Gas prices have already gone up, as you know.
The existence of God produces the existence of man. If you're presuming that God, okay, you guys really want
So this teacher might have just made the worst mistake of their life ever, saying the most out-of-pocket thing here in this Super Bowl. We see this from the Raiders were having a reaction meeting, and in the middle of this girl talking, the college professor who was supposed to be their supervisor decided to say this.
They let them trade the rest of the ball uphill. Now we use the back. We don't have to tell them anymore.
I mean,
she ain't gonna be looking for happy hands.
F-16 just
So it's come to my attention that not all of you own a Boeing 737. So for those of you who still need to buy one, you can find a couple for sale on this site called controller.com. The cheapest one is just $1.3 million, but it's only a 737-200. So if you want something a little more modern, I recommend you check out this Dash 700 for $19.8 million.
I am thrilled.
No! But that's gonna be the end of this video, and bye.
There you go.
Okay.
Your mother didn't come over yet.
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 Yeah, yet.
Key word. Yet. Hi, girls. Well, there's a little bit of French fries left if you want some more.
Okay.
When you're done eating, you know. I'm gonna go watch some news. See what is happening in our crazy world. If you need me.
Okay.
The birds fed. It's your mommy. Your mommy. That's the mama. It's your mama. You done eating already?
Nope.
Oh, I was gonna say, wow. Are you gonna want anything else?
Nope.
No. Maybe some ice cream after a while, or Fat Daddy.
Probably.
Phyllis must be out shopping.
Okay.
guess was initially Wake AirPods. Then I thought, no, maybe they're teasing the flipping phone, maybe. But the more I think about it, I don't think they're teasing anything cool. They're just doing a bunch of random videos themed around the new colors of the which is a lot less exciting. Apple. Have you ever considered the reason why Apple doesn't put a close all button at the bottom is because you're not supposed to be force closing all of your apps all the time. I'm sorry. From Apple's official support page, you should close an app only if it's unresponsive. Argue with the support page, man.
If you take half a ping pong ball over each of your eyes, shine a red light on your face, and then play static for a few minutes, you will lose your mind. You see, this setup blocks out anything from the outside, overwhelming your senses, putting you in a state where your brain actually panics so much from the lack of information that it would start making stuff up. Your mind would try filling in the void with random images, hallucinations like horses in the clouds, or hearing voices in your head. If you take half in 2024, Discord uploaded a video that gained 1.4 billion views in just 24 hours, becoming the most viewed YouTube video in us.
This guy on TikTok went viral for how far he goes to make sure he has the perfect grass. He found a 2-foot ground cover in his yard, so he spent the next 4 hours digging out a 1,000-pound boulder, bringing in a tractor, destroying the entire yard, putting a water line, and then leaving a 12-foot hole just to fix that one spot. He then went to inspect the front yard and found another spot, so he did pretty much the same exact thing.
What's better, Apple Video or the iPad?
Today I was in Pasadena. In case you're having a bad day today, at least you're not the driver of this car, but In case you're having a bad day today, at least you're not the driver of this car. A driver in Los Angeles got hit by another car, causing him to drift into a fire hydrant.
What are these things? Did you know some U.S. states were purchased? Louisiana was bought.
T-Mobile is selling iPhones now. This phone actually was half decent, but if you guys have watched these videos before, know that when we open the phones up, it usually tells a different story. But first, let's go ahead and put this guy on. These tests usually give us a good idea of what to expect when we open the phone in our back market video. But recently, we had an Amazon renewed phone that passed all of these tests and somehow still looked like this on the inside. What even is that? The testing is complete, and surprisingly, the first T-Mobile iPhone actually passed. It passed literally everything. The only way to know if they did anything sketchy now is to go ahead and unscrew cook the iPhone. The T-Mobile iPhone 14 Pro is done cooking. The moment of truth on the first T-Mobile iPhone. We'll go ahead and open it up. Wow. T-Mobile is You've probably met the AI that's taken over my car. I'll say, yeah, right. What if I told you he does all of that and then proceeds to be useless? Hey, Grok, you wanna play music on Spotify for me? Not music it is. Or Nashville. I just thought that's really hard because it's spicy. And doing Charlie X, you wouldn't see it right. No, man. What? Use probably. There's 2 features on the S26 Ultra that I just had to see for myself. Wait, hold up. The slightly rounded edges are low-key kind of nice. First feature I wanted to try was the built-in privacy screen. Oh, shoot. Yeah, that is privacy. Let's set it to max. It definitely makes the screen a little bit dimmer, but that blackout is, that's hardcore.
5 possible. Like, I feel like you're just like 5 and a half. 2 American Airlines.
They cut a hole into the side of a healthy cow and fit a plastic ring with a lid into the opening, making a permanent window into its stomach. Once it heals, vets can open the lid and reach their entire arm inside. See, the mush inside is actually a gold mine of healthy bacteria. Knowing this, they would pull it out and feed it to a sick cow that's having trouble digesting food. This jumpstarts the sick cow's digestive system, saving its life. They cut up
This crawler transports NASA rockets at 1 mile per hour.
Why does Donald Trump just take the national debt? Go on the whole market, put it all on 667, then boom, no more national debt. Am I missing something? Why does Donald Trump just take the national debt?
This man ran a 5K in the bathroom of the plane in flight. He used the app Strava to measure his distance, and because the bathroom is so small, he's basically just stepping on the toilets and back down. And it took him almost an hour to complete. I reached out to Don Stroh, the poster of this video, and the guy running, to see if he was approached by flight attendants or anyone else. And he said, well, no, because they didn't care. This man
Signs that you should not buy that focus. There should not be anything covering the speaker grill or the mic grill. Even if it's just another grill. Every phone case will advertise being tough and rugged.
These are the most primary. He went into the back kitchen with a clear goal in mind. He stepped into 2 plastic tubs filled with shredded lettuce and had his coworker snap a photo of his shoes buried in it, just for fun. He then uploaded that exact photo online with the caption, "This is the lettuce you made at Burger King." But what he didn't realize was that the picture he posted had the location he worked at embedded in its metadata. People tracked the exact spot.
This is the story of how I shredded a yellow card at Wembley Stadium during the Sunderland charity match. You see, last year I did this, which got lots of people talking, and so this year I knew I needed to come back with something bigger, better. So I got brainstorming, eat the card, burn the card, cut the card, and came up with an ingenious idea. I could shred the card. I wanted the smallest shredders I could find, but they just wouldn't do. You tell them where you shredder. So I called in the big guns and had some professionals custom make a shredder small enough to slug onto the pitch. Best.
Quick running test. This is working perfectly. I was ready. The day of the match was here, and I spent the whole game tackling my fellow YouTubers, desperate for another yellow card. Then finally,
Hang on, what's going on here?
something struck.
I'm not sure what happened there.
The shredder wouldn't work, but as I threw it to the ground in anger, the shredder amazingly fired up, and I quickly seized the moment.
It's shredded in.
So on for a very quick
Testing what weapon it takes to destroy a heavily protected U.S. military base in DCS. This high-value military base houses some of the most valuable aircraft ever built. F-20.
You would inject his patients with a substance that would slowly stop their hearts, but the moment they flatlined, he would quickly work to bring them back. You see, he actually did this on purpose. He would wait until the other nurses left the room, set off a cardiac arrest in patients who were passed out in the ICU, just so he could rush into the room later, perform CPR, and save them in front of his colleagues. He was desperate to look like a hero. His rescue stunts failed potentially over 300 times because the dose was often too much for the patients to handle. He was caught when another nurse watched him injecting the juice into a healthy patient, and he was finally sent to prison for life. 1983 engineers.
So what? You want to come on right now?
Okay, calm down, Mom.
You're all pathetic. Mr. President,
This is like a hundred. Can I track down the...
What if the US... People on TikTok have been pointing out that there are no candies anymore. If you were...
What if the USA just won every...
2, 1... For some reason, the White House thought it would be a good idea to post a Pokemon-themed advertisement onto their Twitter page, but now there is a very good chance that they're going to get sued. Like, I'm pretty sure this is a screenshot from Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, and it literally says, "Make America Great Again." And even though Trump is known for doing this kind of stuff, considering he's gotten in a ton of fights with pretty much every single musician, but Nintendo is allegedly known to sue people all the time. especially when it comes to property rights over their videos, because there is no way that he published it. Somebody.
He's got a description. Is she for video? iPhone? Oh no, iPhone. Don't you die on me. Huh?
Is it illegal to listen to some?
Very.
Give me my boss and I put the battery up until it dies. Hey Marquez, yeah, I just wanted to let you know that my phone is at 100%. What's your net? It's 11:42 in the morning and I'm at 85. I just wanted to let you know I'm at 99%.
I'm sick of companies teasing products. Now, what religion is the hardest?
When he was just 2 years old, a British boy could recall a past life on a tiny, remote Scottish island. He described living in a white house, 3 bathrooms overlooking the sea, a black and white dog, and even his father's name. His family had never been there, and he couldn't possibly have known any of it, since he always watched TV with his mom, and she couldn't recall watching anything about that. But when researchers took him to the island, they found out that the house did exist, and at one point, a family with the same last name as his father's and a black and white dog did live there. He even mentioned planes landing on the beach, which is something that actually happens at the island's beach airport. The boy seemed at peace with it. He easily found all 3 bathrooms in the now abandoned house, and could even tell what had changed. Some say it was a coincidence or something he'd learned subconsciously, but it remains a mystery.
Today, I finally fly my giant RC airplane, and after weeks of building and programming, I thought I had everything right. Yesterday, I woke up to an unexpected warning from the constant rainstorms. So I packed up the plane and drove 2 hours to the desert to ensure I wouldn't hit someone or something. But wasn't my biggest issue. The reason these are so difficult to fly is the program, and for some reason, I need a one-taker left. But I figured if I counteracted with enough speed, I could manage the liftoff. And I did for about 10 feet. Just a small crash totaled the fragile plane, but it wasn't a total failure. I had so much fun learning this hobby and interacting with you, and I might just try with a different jet. Photos North Korea.
What would happen if you shot an astronaut in space?
Why is this plane getting its gold? This weatherman was reporting when I'm in the Viper, there's one aircraft that consistently takes my 6.
You all know exactly who I am.
And how many times would you guess I'd lose to him?
Quite a few times.
50 times? 100 times? 200 times.
He's the neck destroyer of VR because I'm always looking behind me most of the
As Michael Jackson was getting ready to step on stage, the crew was busy setting the pyrotechnics that were supposed to go off safely behind him. But when he walked toward his mark, the effect suddenly triggered too soon, exploding on top of him before he was anywhere near ready. The blast sent a shower of sparks straight into his head, but he kept performing without realizing he was on fire. By the time the flames reached his scalp and people rushed over, the burns were already too severe, leaving him with a permanent bald spot that never healed properly and had to be covered with wigs and extensions until the day he passed away.
I have an update on the $50 RAM kit I bought from a TikTok ad. I'm happy to report. The video is no longer labeled an ad. The account changed its username. The Shopify store I bought it from is no longer operational. But don't worry, I still have my order number, so I'm sure it'll get here soon. I have... Is that coming straight at me?
You want a MacBook? A railroad worker was packing gunpowder into a rock when a spark suddenly triggered an explosion, launching a 13-pound metal spike behind his left eye through the left side frontal lobe and completely out the top of the skull. But instead of dying, he stood up, spoke to his men, and sat upright on the ride to the doctor, where he calmly said, "Here's business for you." He then vomited, and about a kiwi's worth of his brain fell to the floor. But what no one knew at the time was that he practically lobotomized himself with the rock, turning a respectable gentleman into an unpredictable bad-mouthed man.
A real shout out to this guy that hires professional impersonators to come.
Remember those Oculus VR headsets? Well, the guy that made those sold the company to Meta for $2 billion, and then he used that money to start making drones. And not the fun ones, because why make cool consumer tech when you can make weapons instead? Come on, dude, this is...
Wings can't be that.
I'm so sick of TikTok shop ads, man. Because, like, why are we using a regime change war in the Middle East to sell more portable chargers? All the videos are like, in World War III, the first thing to go will be the power grid. So buy this 4,000 milliamp hour power bank that can charge your phone. Maybe one time. No. Nothing that you buy on TikTok shop is gonna...
Looking for the... David Vedder was no ordinary boy. He was born with a rare condition that left him without an immune system, which meant even the smallest germ in the air could be deadly. To keep him safe, doctors built a sealed plastic chamber where he spent most of his life. Inside, he had toys, a bed, even a TV, all sterilized, but he could never hug his mom or touch the outside world. Any physical contact he had was through the gloves attached to the chamber. NASA even built him a special suit so he could walk and play outside, but he only used it 6 times. A bone marrow transplant gave him hope of looking like a normal boy, but hidden inside the donor's marrow was an undetected virus, and with no way to defend it, the virus spread quickly, causing hundreds of tumors. He spent his last days with family outside the bubble, finally free for the first time. He passed away at just 12 years old. David Vedder was no ordinary.
I think it's fair to say that this might be the most insane weekend that has happened so far this year, because not one but 2 wars just started. At first, Pakistan declared an open war on Afghanistan, and now they are currently fighting at the border. But just hours ago, Trump announced that we were back at it with Iran.
Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere.
And even though pretty much every single news station is reporting about this,
As his eyes split apart, one scanned the left page, and the other read the right, meaning he could read both pages at the same time. This was possible because the 2 halves of his brain were never connected, so each side learned to understand language on its own. By the end of his life, he had memorized over 12,000 books, almost word for word. But since the halves weren't connected, he struggled with simple tasks that required both sides, like buttoning the shirt. As we messed up,
if you borrow your grandma's walking stick,
YouTube.
Opening YouTube for Android TV.
Yeah.
Our nation was forced to absorb over 500,000 Venezuelans.
I want to really care. What you got to do?
Cetaphil Gentle Skin Cleanser, recommended by dermatologists. Clinically proven to leave skin hydrated after cleansing. Cetaphil, for everyone's sensitive skin.
Hi, I'm Gabby, co-founder of Magic Beer. We grew up loving those sweet Christmas treats, and realized we're not just sugar and amplifiers.
I'm trying to platinum every game I own. We're currently making our way through every card, with our last card being Ghosts. Hopefully, this one will be better. Released in 2014, developed by Sledgehammer Games and Raven Software, Advanced Warfare is another flop in the series. But for some reason, many people look back at it as a good game. Well, going through this platinum is going to help us decide, as we need to play the entire game on Veteran, as well as playing maybe the most annoying survival mode in the entire series. Starting the Veteran campaign, completing the first mission in the game will get us the trophy Soulmates. And as always with any Veteran playthrough we do on the channel, I try and see how far I can get without that's redo that horrible way to start the playthrough. But making our way through the first half of this mission, we run into a massive drone swarm, as well as the game's first missable trophy that we get if we can take out the drone swarm without the tank getting destroyed. Not on my watch. Absolutely not on my watch. Now, jumping into a new card, there's always a learning period of learning how to aim again and learning what the new secondary grenade does. I'm blind! Threat detected! Okay, so the grenade hurt me. That was the only threat right there. So that trophy was for scanning 10 enemies with the new threat grenade, which gives me wall hacks, but also for some reason blinds me. Why does it have to hit me? Wow, okay. We're finishing up the first mission. We need to blow up this ship, where our friend that we joined the military with, Will Irons, plants an explosive charge and gets trapped. Oh, and doesn't make it. And neither does our arm. Oh, my arm! Soulmates. Wow. I guess we'll leave without the arm. Okay, good stuff. Now, this game actually has upgrades for your exosuit that you unlock with upgrade points. And for unlocking our first upgrade, we get the trophy Advanced Soldier. Advanced Soldier, faster reload, increase aim speed by 25%. I'll take that as well. For completing the next mission, Atlas, we get the trophy Welcome to Atlas, where we attend Will Irons' funeral, which also, unfortunately, happens to be the best of one of the most popular memes in gaming history. Hold an F. Well, after the funeral, Will's dad, Big Irons, hands us a business card to come and work for him and get a new arm. Always business card you can understand. And in our first day at Atlas, we get ran through a training simulation that I absolutely aced. I didn't even know the president was in there! But after that exercise, we get taken to the next training section. What you're seeing is Advanced Warfare. Oh, he said it! He said the thing! We'll be running to our next missable trophy, Deadeye, which you get for getting an excellent rating in the shooting range. Training complete. Deadeye! Didn't miss a single bullet. And after the shooting range, we get taken to the grenade range. We run into another missable trophy, Grenadier. And this trophy is for getting another excellent rating. Grenadier! Wait, excellent. I knew there was a trophy for it. Yeah, that's me at the top. I didn't say that right. How do you say it? Grenadier? But after the grenade range, we headed back to the simulation where this time I didn't shoot the president. Welcome to Atlas. Let's go. Ready to work. New milestone. We get our next trophy life in the fast lane for completing the mission in traffic, where we need to go save the Prime Minister from the bad guy leader, Hades. We sneak into where the Prime Minister's being held hostage by using maybe the coolest device in any COD campaign, the mute charge. Oh, that's so cool. That's so sweet, dude. Hell yeah. Ooh, that's gonna be on. But after we save the PM, then need to chase after Hades, who took a technologist. When we get ambushed and I get capped a couple of times. Yeah, right, I'm starting stupidly now. We then get to this level's mystical trophy with cloaked legs, where we need to cross the street and take out the enemies without shooting any civilians' cars. Yeah, we'll come back to that one later. But as we chase down the technologist, we get into an intense car chase filled with action-packed moments. And quick-time events. Wait, I pressed it! But after another pretty much unavoidable death, we finally catch up to the van, and we manage to save the technologist from drowning and complete the mission. Right for the fast lane. That was a sweet mission. Hey, this campaign's not bad. And real quick before we get into the next trophy, I want to thank the sponsor of this video, Watcher of Realms. Watcher of Realms. QR code on screen and downloading Watcher of Realms for free on PC and floating at the point to stop a KVA attack on a power plant that they're trying to blow up. And after dying before I even land, which is very fair by the way, and once more when I try to use this drone shield, they then wanted me to hop into this mobile turret, where I accidentally got a missable trophy Fire and Forget for getting 10 kills while using the tank. Fire and Forget, that's kind of what I'm doing right now. That's a trophy. After getting that trophy and taking out this Titan, we then make our way through the power plant. We try and stop the meltdown from happening, but it turns out we're too late. Okay. Radioactive. That was another sweet mission.
I'm a sucker for AC explosions.
And completing that mission not only got us that trophy, but it also got us some more upgrade points. Where for spending our 10th point, we get the trophy Second Skin. Second Skin? Spend 10 extra upgrade points. Man, like 4 missions in? I'll take it. Making our way forward to the next mission, we get the trophy Lotus City. We get tasked to drive out and find Hades' doctor, who's apparently hiding out in a haunted mansion. Oh shit. Alright, okay. And after a few deaths, we find and breach where the doctor is. I was just going guns blazing, that's my bad. And after not shooting him in the head, we now need to escape with it. Where we get to this mission's missable trophy, Wheelman, where we need to complete this entire driving section without taking damage, hitting an obstacle, or bumping into a wall. And as always, we'll come back to this one later. City. Now, while this veteran campaign has been filled with cool movie moments, it's not really had the difficulty spike that other campaigns have had, and that was until our next mission, Manhunt. And no, the enemies didn't randomly start deleting me, as the section that jumped in difficulty was this CCTV section at the very start of the mission, where all we have to do is locate a key man by scanning civilian faces, and we have to do this in under 45 seconds.
All stations be advised. Key man has left the area.
I didn't do shit. What do you mean? They give me 2 seconds to find him? He wants me to keep scanning the same people.
Man has left the area.
Okay, like...
Man has left the area.
Second. Holy shit, man. He's finding the key man. Yeah, sure. What are you doing? That's him. That's him! No, that's him! No, he hasn't. Try that again. There we go. First try! But after finally finding the key man, the manhunt begins. And for completing the level, we get the trophy Born to Die. Well, after following the key man, we get a location on where Hades is. And when we move in to go confirm it's him, it turns out... As Hades escapes in a truck, we then have to chase after him. And while making our way to him, I did manage to die a couple times. But as we're getting closer to him, we ran into a sniper, as well as a bunch of KVA drivers. But we managed to get another missile trophy out of the way for taking out 25 drones with a DMP grenade. Oh, fly swatter! Very cool. It's a trophy. And after taking out the drones, we now need to deal with this sniper. Oh! Rodan! But we managed to take care of him peacefully, as in get peace. We then blow up Hades' convoy and die 2 more times by no fault of my own, by the way. I killed myself there. And after we drag Hades out of the wreck, we get oh damn! But I overthrew some hands, and we managed to capture Hades and take him alive. Ooh! Wait! Is this supposed to be live? And what follows is the cringiest moment in COD history. Game over. Oh!
That was what?
What's up?
Terrible. Born to Die. There we go. That mission kind of sucked. I won't lie. Moving into our next trophy, Betrayal, we get to completing the mission Utopia, where we quickly find out what Irons knows. Oh! Not only did he know and let the KVA blow up the power plants, but he also knows, so we saw the footage. But after escaping being captured because the main villain leaves the room before the hero escapes moment, we now need to get out of the mood of Baghdad. But while trying to escape, they managed to do a pretty good job of stopping me as I started to stupidly die. Can it start down being so stupid? If it wasn't bad enough, the game decided to send me an AST. What is that? I didn't hear me. Oh my god, where are you going? Where am I going? I don't know. Now that trophy wasn't the game trash talking. It was actually a missable trophy for taking down an AST with an EMP grenade. But after actually taking down the AST this time and dying 3 more times, they shot through a wall. We then get saved by our old army sergeant as we now try to team up to take down Iron. Betrayal. Could have known that one was coming, you know what I mean? Found out what Irons knows. We get our next trophy crates on a plane for completing the mission Sentinel, which is a stealth mission. Well, kind of. They never said they made a stealth game. But we need to sneak into Irons' house, steal his intel, and plant a tracker on his cargo. Complete mission? Crates on a plane? I know what they did there. Because there's crates on the plane. Crates that we want. So for completing the next mission, Crash, we get the trophy The Destroyer Returns. We take down Irons' plane to steal his crates on the plane, and after securing it, the plane gets insta-shot down and we get shoved into some ice caves. Is that part of it? It was. I was about to say. Which we fight our way out of without dying. You're looking at advanced warfare. There we go, we then escape the caves and run into more bad guys, where we try to fight them and fall through the ice again. Alright, sweet, okay. We get pulled out by Gideon, who turns out to be one of the good guys now, and helps us shoot down and recover the sample of the bioweapon, which is very cool, but even cooler the fact that we didn't die in this entire mission. I jumped! I'm spamming X! Destroyer returns! Flying product! We're moving to the next mission, Biolab. For completing the mission, we get the trophy Irons in the Fire. But before the mission even starts, we get shot out of the sky. We have to make our way to his lab by sneaking past patrols and taking out guards. Where we then meet up with the rest of the team, and it's time to storm the lab. Where the fuck did he come from? Sorry, Cormac, I keep shooting them. If you guys aren't going to shoot other people, I'm going to have to start shooting you guys. But after destroying the lab, we then go to lead by taking Irons' own whip, which actually has a missable trophy tied to it, restricted airspace. Now you get this trophy by taking out 10 aircraft with the EMP cannon. Now I once again missed the missable trophy, shocker. But what I love specifically about missing this trophy is that it's at the very end of the mission, so I need to come back and play the entire mission again, damn it! Irons in the Fire. Not the vehicle mission I was hoping for, but a vehicle mission nonetheless. But still flying through the campaign, for completing the next mission, Collapse, we get the trophy GG. Where we rush to a popular US landmark, and after following a van that we believe has Manticore on it, we get out to chase the van on foot. Oh bro, learn to drive! Where the game slightly starts to remember that I'm playing on Veteran, and this is indeed advanced warfare. Oh my god! Bulletproof, is this the president's car? What are we doing? Whoa! He's just tanking my bullets! This is advanced warfare. You're looking at advanced warfare right now. We did manage to push through and secure the van that turned out to be exploding drones that drops the Golden State Bridge. This is the second pod that has destroyed this breach. GG, yeah, I guess that's GG. Kind of a toxic trophy name, but sure. GG's, I guess, especially if I got hit by a bus. And while we've been flying through these missions, I've been upgrading my exosuit. After spending our 20th upgrade point, we get the trophy, we have the technology. Oh, we have the technology. Spend 20 extra upgrade points. It's a silver too. And apparently Irons taking the Golden State Bridge isn't enough, as he's now trying to take our weapons carrier, the Armada. And for completing the mission, we get the trophy Wrath of Atlas. So we board the courier to stop Irons' men, where they ended up stopping me instead. Oh, wow! And after maybe the worst night vision in any video game ever. I don't even know what I'm looking at here. Oh, this sucks. We did manage to take over the bridge and disintegrate not only his ships, but his Amazon orders too. Just evaporated them. Wrath of Atlas. But heading into the last few missions in the game, we have done enough damage to Irons that I'm hoping he doesn't unleash Manticore. Damn. But it's not all bad because it's a vehicle mission. Let's go! We usually love these, which we might actually have to start rewriting about how we feel about vehicle missions in these games, as this one is dog shit. Oh! Why was that so weird to control? Not only does the game aim for my crosshair, which is in the bottom half of my screen for some reason, so when I go to aim at someone, I over-adjust and... Oh, shit! Oh, this is so weird! And not to mention the game instantly interrupted me before I even knew what I was doing. Oh! Which threw me for the biggest loop as I started to overthink everything and crash even more. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. My wall inverted? Oh, is it already inverted? I went down. I love vehicle missions usually. This is so strange. Like, I have to look down to aim at everybody because they're below me, but I need to stay above the floor. Get me out of this shit now. But after painfully completing the vehicle section, we made it to the second half. We not only just BM this guy in this tank so we can take out the other tanks, but also just probably war crime this guy out of the AST. Oh! I caught him! Oh! It was starting to look like we were winning this fight if you ignore the 4 deaths that we racked up in this section, but it was looking good until this drone swarm showed up. Oh, it's the WMD. Manticore Unleashed. It did get unleashed. That plane mission, that vehicle mission, sucked. Unbelievably sucked. For our next trophy of the week from the chaff, we need to complete the mission Capture. Well, after being taken to what I would have called Fun Camp, but I'm not going to anymore as apparently that's not allowed here. Ow! I want to see you. Are they getting blitzed? No! Who's hitting me? Wait, who's... He's still behind me! Oh, I died! Wait, they're playing around. Yeah, this is basically hell on earth. Let me turn around. We then get put into Irons' dungeon, but Irons shoots Cormac, gets a little too close to us, and busts up our arm. Now, I know what you're thinking. How do we get out of this? Well, don't worry. The main bad guy leaves the room and we escape in 2 seconds. He really has got to stop leaving. We now need to shoot our way out of the prison while only being able to use one hand. Now, there is a missable trophy for using 20 different weapons in this level, but because I'm so nice at the video game, I rarely needed to pick a new one up. Okay, I wasn't that nice. It's a weird mechanic and feels really weird. I get I did just lose an arm, but I just wish Gideon actually helped in any part of this section. Because holy shit, he did nothing! Sick flash, bro, he got me. This didn't flash shit! Now that section was just not fun at all. And I think they realized that as they shoved us into an AST suit. Hell yeah, that has surprisingly low health. Just dead instantly. Main gun overheated and dead instantly. Second time lucky, we break through some walls and take out 4 ASTs, which I'd be lying if I said this section wasn't sweet. But we do manage to escape as we head into our last mission. The Week from the Chat. And for the last mission in the game, Terminus, we get the trophy A New Era for completing the campaign on any difficulty, Hard Hitter for Harden, and SP Prestige for completing it on Veteran. Where before the mission even starts, Cormac didn't make it. Lucy's. So now it's personal. Now it's finally time to stop Irons. So we fly into his base in AST suits, mowing down anyone in our way. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Whoa. Oh, we're just trying to face thank you. And after obliterating his defenses, we drop down to the rocket that is holding Manticore. But just as it's taking off, we bagged up into it to try and stop it before the launch. What's this made out of? But after stopping the rocket, it's not over yet, as we need to hunt down and find Irons. Now this is a massive facility. We could be anywhere in the building. Oh, never mind. He's right there. But without Exo shut off and him taking our gun, it's looking like the end.
I can kill you now, but I won't.
villain leaves and we escape. Is that the 4th time this campaign? But after chasing Irons down, we quickly catch up to him, quickly snatch this guy's knife, and tackle Irons and dagger him off the building. Oh, see ya. Let go.
Well, the truth is, they pull me up, and this whole building goes down, and we go down with it.
Oh, wait, do I actually get a choice here? Oh, I fell as well. So I was a good little soldier, pressed the quick time events where we kind of symbolically cut off the arm that he gave us. Like that missile. And that hits him. Let's go! That's game! Advanced Warfare campaign completed on veteran. What is that? SP Prestige. That's for the veteran. Hard hitter. SP Prestige, hard hitter. A new era. Is that it? Very nice. But with another veteran COD campaign completed, we still, as always, have a lot to do. As we're not only missing a lot of campaign trophies, but as well as we need to get stuck into this game's survival mode. But before jumping straight into that mode, I wanted to get some of the easier campaign trophies that we missed out of the way first. Starting with the trophy Never Saw It Coming. To get this trophy, we need to dunk on an enemy. Bang! I died. Never saw it coming. And the next trophy, Karma, is even easier. To get the trophy, you just need to kill an enemy by throwing a door at them. Oh, I didn't kill him. What the? Okay, as I said, pretty easy. Come on, he's down. Now, actually getting back to the missable trophies that are tied to levels, we head back to the mission Traffic, where to get the trophy look both ways, we need to take out all KVA enemies without damaging a civilian vehicle in this traffic section. But while getting ourselves to the traffic section, I did manage to knock out another trophy, Maximum Overdrive, for killing 50 enemies while using the overdrive curve on your Exo that slows down time. There we go, Maximum Overdrive. But finally getting back to the traffic section where I decided to play it really careful. Oh, I don't know if I hit back up. And so careful, in fact, that I reset my checkpoint only to find out I had already got to the next checkpoint. Oh, damn it. I tried to reset. Oh, multiple third place. Nice. Okay, a little risky. I won't lie. Oh, thank God we don't have to do that one again. For our next trophy, Riot Control, I headed to the next mission, Vision. As to get this trophy, we need to kill 20 enemies while being linked to the mobile cover drone. There we go, Riot Control. Very nice. And on this mission, we can actually try get some other missable trophies, like the trophy Loud Enough For You, for taking out 10 enemies that are affected by the Sonic Blast Exo ability. Loud Enough For You, there you go. Another trophy in the same mission. And the last trophy we went for in this level is the trophy Genius, for taking out 4 enemies with a single smart grenade. The enemy tangents! Very forward, that's 4. There we go, Genius. Oh, damn. Now, after flying through a lot of these trophies, we did manage to get slowed down at the mission Aftermath with its missable trophy, Wheelman, which you get for completing the hoverbike sequence without taking any damage, a sequence that is once again at the very end of the mission. But it's not all bad, as we did manage to get another missable trophy for exo-dodging 20 grenades without exosuit. Is that doing that trophy? Oh, it is! There you go! There you go, escape artist. And after trekking through 20 minutes of this mission, we finally got a chance to attempt the Wheelman trophy. Okay, here we go. Yep, that damage right there, before I even got control of the bike, counts as damage and fails the trophy, which thankfully I didn't realize. Okay, we're fine. And ran the entire mission flawlessly without damage or hitting an obstacle, which is so sick. I failed the section before the section even started. This game sucks. And I'm not playing that long-ass mission again right now. So we'll come back to that as we move on to another missable trophy that doesn't take 20 minutes to just even attempt. We're in the mission Manhunt. When we have control of the sniper drone, we need to get a triple with one shot. There we go, sitting ducks. Don't even need to do the mission. We get our next trophy, Party Crasher, for taking out 20 enemies with the grappling hook in the mission center, which took longer than expected. But after a really repetitive stealth takedown, we finally got the trophy. There it is. Party Crasher done with this mission. Now with only 8 trophies that are tied to the campaign left, it's finally time to take a break and head into survival. With only 5 trophies tied to the game mode, the hardest 2 trophies that we have to get are the trophies Exo Flip, which you get for getting to wave 25, and the other trophy Flip Flop for flipping a map twice, which is essentially just getting to wave 50 with harder enemies in the last 25 waves. Now these 2 trophies are a bit of a problem, as in my first few attempts, the highest wave I got to was wave 9, on the easiest difficulty by the way. Man, this is regular? Kill camera, this guy just beamed in my head, honestly. This survival mode is different, as the enemy actively tries to dodge your aim, but also you need to complete random mid-round challenges, with different tasks you have to complete, like defusing 3 bombs, and if you fail, you get a punishment, like sentry guns that insta-zap you. What is that shit? And even if you can get past all of the shit this game is throwing at you, Activision still has a final trick up their sleeve that they love to pull, and it is completely unavoidable. Yeah, big surprise, old COD servers are terrible. And you'd think after that I'd go and play local, but I had a fear that 2 of the other survival trophies is that I thought they had to be done while connected to the online servers, and was just hoping that this maybe was just a one-time disconnect. So I loaded into the map retreat and we got to work, where my first goal was to try and find a good place to set up, as running through the map in later rounds won't cut it. And after round 4 I got blessed with this spot right here. This is pretty free for us. But they're like glitched. I found the spot, boys. Wave 50 never been so easy. Now that's big talk for a guy who hasn't seen past wave 9. As, shocker, the further you go, the harder the waves get.
Heavy mech units showing on ISR.
Heavy mech units? Now at the time that did sound scary, but only having to deal with one of them in this spot is pretty doable. Yeah, this spot is insane. Now being further into any round that I've ever been before, the game was still trying to stop me. I have no money for ammo. Oh, might have done that. Knife, hello? What kind of knife? For some reason, my knife wasn't working. I guess. What kind of knife? What can I fucking do? I don't think I can do anything. And with no other options, my only chance was to try and stomp on them and just pray that I got an ammo drop. My Smash Bros! What is happening? Oh, ammo supply! Oh, ammo supply, I can't speak. Okay, we're back, we're alive. But with that close call, the waves started to fly in. New enemies were getting introduced, we adapted and kept moving. Oh my god, that was the biggest jump scare of my life. Wave after wave, we somehow got up to wave 25. But for completing this wave, we not only flipped the map for the first time, getting the trophy Exo Flip, that means we're halfway to the trophy Flip Flop. And of course, they were not going to make wave 25 easy. Oh, it's over. Slowing down, taking my time, I got it down to a 3v1. 3 ASTs versus 1 me. We are so close to our first survival trophy, but my first mistake was forgetting about the 4th component, the servers. Oh, man. Are we serious? I'm so done. That was an hour and a half to be ripped out by this game's shitty servers. Sweet, bro. Oh my god, that was it. That was literally it. And to be fair, that is on me. I should have looked up if these other trophies can be done locally, because it turns out that they can. So after turning off my console's internet and heading into local play, we booted up Retreat once more. And we remind you that just getting to wave 25 took over an hour and a half of constantly paying attention and trying to survive. And that isn't even enough for this platinum. We basically have to get to wave 50. But if we're looking at the glass half full, that hour and a half wasn't really wasted, as not only did I find this spot, I had learned this game mode now. I knew what to upgrade, when to upgrade it, I picked the weapons that I liked best, and after another hour and a half, I got right back to wave 25, where I was calm, cool, collected, and everything was under control. What? Good thing I didn't panic. Supposed to get to round 50. This is insane. Come on. I don't know what a bombing run does. Oh! Big hit on him. Big hit on him. Let's go! Map flips. You have completed all the rounds. Now you will start again. But this time the enemies will be a little tougher. Exo flips. Oh my god. There we go. Finally. 1 squared? What are you doing? Halfway, don't... And halfway is exactly right. Because for the trophy flip-flop, we need to flip this map again. But this time, with harder enemies. He has a shield. Now, I was fully expecting this second run to be way harder. But for some reason, the AI felt like it broke. Are they trolling with me? They're not shooting me. Where's he going? Get back here! Who thinks he's me? Now this did make Blades go on a lot longer than they should have, but having to fight a small amount of enemies, almost one by one, these flip rounds managed to be easier than the first 25 rounds. But with any trophy similar to this one that takes over 2 hours just for one attempt, the closer you get to getting the trophy, the more nervous you get. As one little slip up, one little lapse in concentration, it's all for nothing and back to square one. Let's go. One more round. This is it. Ah! What the fuck is that? 3 enemies left. Tell you guys. Oh, that's one down. That's 3 times. There's one left. Oh, where's he going? Once again, flip-flop. There it is.
Enemy ground forces
We are done. Oh god, that's 2 hours. Thank god that's over. That sucked. 2 hours and 35 minutes for that single attempt. That one attempt that I could have lost at the very end. With the maps flipped, all we now need to do for survival is play more survival. With the longest grind being the trophy Exo Survivor, but we need to survive the last wave on the final map. But to unlock the final map, we need to play a total of 175 rounds across different tiers of maps. But thankfully, they don't need to be done in a row. And trying to unlock the last map actually does help us along the way to the other survival trophies. So the first trophy on this grind is the trophy Class Warfare, where you need to play for 30 minutes on each Exo class. And we had already completed the light class, so all we had left to play was the heavy class, which is lasers and LMGs, 31 minutes, and the specialist class, which is shotguns and snipers. Oh, shit! Oh, Class Warfare. Oh, that's it. Oh, let's go. Now with our last 2 survival trophies just being Exo Survival Veteran and the trophy Exo Survivor, which after 36 more waves of Tier 2 maps, we finally have unlocked Tier 3. Just 100 more rounds to go, which was so much fun to play and definitely enjoyed each and every round. Oh! We had finally unlocked the last map.
Oh, that should be it. Yes, you have unlocked Tier 4. Congratulations. Let's go. Finally. We now need to just complete Riot and finish however many matches we have left. I don't actually know.
So now we can finally go for the trophy Exo Survivor. But all we need to do is get to Wave 10 and survive the bonus round. Now it was pretty easy getting to Wave 10, but I had no idea what to expect for this last round.
Sensors are showing magical signatures headed your way. Back to the sky.
What do you mean hit the deck? Oh, okay, it was scripted. Oh, that actually scared the shit out of me. Wait, I got goosebumps. Exo zombies, no way! Oh, there you go.
Get to the prison yard. Double time.
I'm going. I'm escaping. Oh, that was it, right? Okay, that was very anticlimactic. Exo Survivor! Exo Zombies! Exo Zombies! Now, all that's left for survival is to just play 50 matches, which I had no idea how many games I'd played. But thankfully, you don't need to play a specific amount of rounds. You just need to load up the game, jump off the map, and repeat. Now, I thought I was going to be pretty close, but after 17 times loading in and jumping off, we finally got done with survival. Oh, Exo Survival Veteran! Yeah, it worked! Let's go! That is Exo done. Finally. Back to the campaign we go. Let's get this one. Heading back to the campaign for the final time, we head back to the mission Aftermath with the trophy that's at the very end of the level, Wheelman, where we need to not take damage in this entire bike section. Okay, no damage. I take damage. Yeah, I don't know how to avoid taking damage before getting on the bike, but somehow it didn't happen after resetting the checkpoint. I guess it just comes up to chance. Okay, to get hit there. Now there is a lot happening in this section, and it is kind of hard to know if you didn't hit anything, but just knowing you haven't taken any damage is kind of a good sign. There we go, Willman. We did it. It was the damage at the start. We don't have to play this mission again, honey. Thank God. And speaking about trophies that are at the end of missions, we headed over to the mission Biolab for the trophy restricted airspace. When in the hover tank, we need to EMP 10 aircraft out of the sky. Is that not 10? Maybe I miscounted. No, that is 10. Nice. Restricted airspace. You don't need to do this mission again. Our next trophy man overboard on the level Armada. We just need to punch an enemy off of the ship. Oh, see ya. Man overboard. That's a trophy. Didn't have to try very hard for that one. And for our second last missile trophy, we need to head back to our favorite vehicle mission, Throttle. We need to shoot down 10 enemy aircraft. I was thinking that this trophy was going to take a couple of attempts, considering how many times I died during the campaign. But somehow, I managed to do it first try. Flying Ace! Down, crash! Flying Ace! God damn it. Oh, my game crashed. Not only did I crash in the game, my game crashed. And for the final missable trophy in the game, we need to head to the mission Capture. As for the trophy heavy-handed, in the one-arm section, we need to pick up and use 20 different guns. Heavy-handed. It wasn't. Okay, cool. As the last campaign-related trophy, missable trophy, should I say, now just the intel and we're done. Now, I'd normally leave the intel trophies till very last as sort of a victory lap, but to get our final upgrade points, you need to fully complete all of the campaign challenges, and collecting all intel is one of them. So for collecting over half of the intel, we get the trophy History in the Making.
History in the making. Halfway. 22 more to go, and we're done. And we also need to get grenade kills.
And while playing back through the missions to collect all the intel, I did manage to smash out the final grenade challenge for not only the final challenge, but as well as the second last trophy, Ferrum Absconsa. I'm not even going to try say what that trophy name is. One more trophy, just have to finish this level to get to it. And for our last trophy for this platinum, all we need to do is spend our hard-earned upgrade points. Our last upgrade. Power changes everything, which means
the end of war. Advanced Warfare has been platinum. Is there any Call of Duty that can stop me?
Maybe the next one. Maybe the next one.
I'm scared about that one, I won't lie.
Only 29 hours, man. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Let me know of any games you want to see me platinum next, as our next platinum is one that you've been asking for a while. Yes.
I've just bought every single Xbox console ever for a TV from the time of the release, and even the same game on all of it. So, let's see how the entire gaming experience has leveled up. When the original Xbox hit the stores all the way back in 2001, it hit hard. Gamers were shocked that anyone, let alone an American company like Microsoft, would dare to go toe-to-toe with the Japanese giants, so Nintendo and Sony, who at this point had long established their dominance over the console gaming market. It just sounded like a recipe for disaster, but there was a See, while Microsoft had no experience with consoles, they basically ran the world of PC gaming at the time. thanks to Windows' extremely developer-friendly DirectX app programming interface. But we saw a threat on the horizon with the announcement that Sony's PlayStation 2 was going to be able to play DVDs and CDs as well as games. Microsoft CEO Bill Gates realized that sooner or later, home consoles were going to overtake the PC as the all-in-one device. And so they had to act fast and release one of their own if they wanted to stay relevant. The solution? Xbox. Barely fits on my table. Inside you get the power cable, you get an old school TV adapter, the controller. Holy, this thing is chunkier than I remember. There's some manuals, and the console. This is huge. And what Microsoft did here is really clever. They built the Xbox in a very similar way to how you would build a PC, with PC cards like an Ethernet port for online access. Which was the first for any console, and this allowed them to also transfer over that Windows DirectX programming interface to this console, which is actually how we ended up with the name X. And all of this gave the Xbox one huge advantage. It was incredibly easy to bring PC games to it. Oh, yeah, and it was also the most powerful console in the world. Microsoft were very aware that they needed to compete with PlayStation 2 specs to make the Xbox a success, but what they decided to do instead was to we literally double the PS2 system memory at 64 megabytes per RAM. Xbox became the obvious choice for the most ambitious developers, like Bungie, who created the most important game in Microsoft's entire history. Hey, I gotta say, something about the community feels seamless, hyper real indoor and outdoor environments. To some extent, they probably knew how much of an impact this game was gonna have. To get this console on a real consoles having a really hard surface. It's just so satisfying and tactile. Something about having an old console paired with an old TV confused the experience. You can't forget this bad boy over here. I still can't believe this is a legitimate controller that Microsoft actually released. I thought the whole of it doing that. It definitely makes you feel like you're about to do some serious demo. Player 1, player 2, player 3, player 4. It's super what I miss about modern gaming. But your friends will just come over to your house, they bring their controllers with them, they plug them into your TV, and you can just play on the couch together. Oh, God. This is such a cool start of that video. Microsoft did such a good job of making this appeal to the gamer. Oh my god. They absolutely smashed it with the sound quality. Oh, this is going to make me not normal difficulty for the first one. You know what? The cosmos dimensions aside, this is actually quite comfortable and ergonomic. You can totally see how Halo became such a mainstay. It's a combination of the graphics, the gameplay, the soundtrack. This is way before any kind of notions moving tech. So it definitely feels just a little bit laggy compared to modern games. The rumble on control is fantastic. I remember how cool it found it. You can see the number of bullets left on the gun itself. It shows every single individual bullet that I had in my magazine. And it's all practically legible. The reflections on the bottom are really impressive. And then this would like blow people's minds. Press the white button on top, that becomes a flash. Oh yeah, then you can also go close and punch it. And it's just as overpowered as it is today. Oh, I'm dead! The original Xbox went on to sell 24 million units in its lifetime, and defeating Nintendo's ability to cement Microsoft as one of gaming's big key players, just after their first console. The crazy thing is though, that despite those sales, Microsoft actually made a loss of $4 billion on the Xbox, just because it was that expensive to produce. They weren't worried. The Xbox had served its purpose in building the foundations of what would become the Xbox 360. Now, you might be wondering why they didn't just do the normal thing, or the Xbox 2. Well, this is around the time when Sony was launching their PlayStation 3, and so instead of making it seem like they were still on 2 and lagging a generation behind, Microsoft decided to just scrap the memory system and focus on how this Xbox put the user at the center. Get it? 360. Now, the process of actually trying to get a brand new sealed one of these is actually insane. I mean, you can see the entire box is falling apart. It's so old and also probably not stored very well. So, the console's on top this time, there's a few manuals, and then 2 compartments, after which you get absolutely assaulted by accessories. I had no idea there was an Xbox TV remote, the wall adapter, an Ethernet cable for internet, a headset included in the box. Nice! The TV display cable, the frankly enormous power supply, and then the classic controller. Wow, this is noticeably trimmed down versus its predecessor. It's definitely lost a little bit of that core gamer personality that the first Xbox had, but you can see why they've done everything about this is way more streamlined, from the sleepy shape of both the console and the controller, to the fact that the massive X branding has basically disappeared, all serving the role of making it a more appealing home media device that even non-gamers want, which I guess also explains this funny video controller mode. The 360 dwarfed its predecessor in the specs department, at roughly 8 times the raw processing power, with 512 megabytes of RAM, helping it to display far more graphically intensive games natively at 720p resolution. Being a PC company first, Microsoft was far more experienced than Sony and Nintendo in internet devices. And so, they used this advantage to make sure that this Xbox had the fastest internet hardware, and that Microsoft's online servers were the most reliable. And while the original Xbox did also have some online capabilities, with the 360 they built online to the core DNA of it. You could buy music, you could stream TV, you could download movies. This was really the beginning of true online competitive gaming. Plus, rather than making each game its own separate online experience, Microsoft realized that if they could instead create a single profile system that could reach across all games, with achievements and gamer score that a player could accumulate to show their friends how good of a gamer they are, they would garner far more loyalty to the console. This is why the 360 shipped with a headset right out of the box. Microsoft wanted to make it as easy as possible for people to jump online and get fully invested in the Xbox ecosystem. Oh yeah, and it also had Halo 3, which is still considered one of the greatest video games of all time. Well, that's kind of weird because I have a normal-sized controller in my hand. It's just so embarrassing. And then this was like the party bit of generation. All of the Xbox buttons, why does it need to turn that on? It's so cool. This still holds to life. It's not required, but I've heard several room fans that make less noise about it. That is iconic. And they're just flexing the power of this console. So this middle button is like the portal to the online features. So many things to do here. It's such a great user interface for the console. It's colourful, it's fast, it's clear, and I guess most importantly, it keeps you connected to your friends. It kind of feels a bit like a PC that you connect to a TV, even after the Windows logo there. I really wish the online servers were still up. All those kids spending their entire evenings screaming obscenity in people's mobs. It's nice. Okay, so straight away you can notice the high resolution. It's also got a little bit of that motion blur, so panning around towards the fluid. There's also so much unexpected freedom from just being quiet. Even the character's walking animation is much more human. I still miss the fact that you can't scope in by holding the left trigger, like you can on most modern first-person games. Extra inverters is one of my favorite pastimes. The higher power of this console has allowed the scale of the battles to increase. There's more enemies involved in every encounter, and the vastness of the battlefields has gone up. Probably the easiest way to see the higher resolution is just looking at the interface. However, on the cheaper end, it makes such a difference to the game experience. Wow, you can dual wield weapons in this. That's such a cool way of stepping things up from last gen. The Xbox 360 wasn't without its struggles. Like thousands of consoles were plagued with hardware errors at launch, including the infamous red ring of death, where the lights surrounding the power button would turn red to indicate that your console was effectively a Xbox. And then there was the 360 Slim that you could get bundled with Xbox Connect, Microsoft's motion camera answer to Nintendo's wildly successful Wii, which Microsoft hyped up enormously, only to forget to release any games on it. To be fair, I remember being blown away when I first played Kinect Adventures, but let's be honest, it's no Halo. The 360 Slim was quieter and 2 less powered than the base version. It was enough to make it a very popular machine. So, Microsoft decided to make lots of versions: Arcade, Pro, the Elite, 360E, and overall, it's fair to say they did enough things right to almost quadruple the last console sales to 84 million. And as such, the channel would be exciting. But then they would have what would become the biggest fail in gaming history. On the surface, though, it was not the obvious one. You see, what made the 360 such a hit was its combination of gaming, online play, and its dual purpose as a media box. So, with the next generation Xbox One, they decided to run with those core purposes. They showcased the Xbox One as being this smart media box of the future, being able to seamlessly juggle with television and gaming, and actually being always online, which might have been okay, but it's just the way they went about it went down on a ton of bricks. Because it wasn't just that the Xbox One could be always online, it had to be to function. It had a system that would assign any game you buy specifically to your account, so you couldn't buy or sell used games. They spent so much time talking about TV that it didn't even feel like the launch of a next-gen game console. They called it the Xbox One, even though it was the third Xbox. And the most damning of all was that instead of forgetting about Kinect after its failure last gen, Microsoft instead decided to bundle their next Kinect 2.0 with every single Xbox One, and pushing the price up to a whole $100 more than Sony's PlayStation 4. All you need to do is to see the difference in audience reaction to know how this generation is about.
At $399.
$429 now for the UK. You could say that gamers were inconsolable, but the sad part of it is that there's quite a lot to like here. The box is split nicely into 2 compartments. One half has a way nicer, sleeker headset, huge power supply again, an HDMI cable, mains plug, and a design control. The second compartment is, well, the console, which is designed to be mostly just a black box, so that it would fit well in people's videos. Also, Xbox One was not messing around in the power department. While the Xbox 360 was around 8 times more powerful than the original Xbox, this monster was around 16 times better than the 360, or 125 times the original. It's basically a full-on PC, with 8 gigabytes of RAM, supporting its now native 10 GB output. Even the game boxes have had a bit of a facelift. The Xbox One game packaging is so much more modern than the There's tricks you gotta take, the ones you wanna take, and with you a savior when well, nothing ain't so far away. City Foundation, it's the discount for later, make it count, only at hotels.com. The controller tab as well. I'm a huge fan of the Xbox One controller. This is such an overhaul. This is really careful blend of both matte and glossy parts. It just looks very pro. Notice how the Xbox logo is now white instead of green. They're really trying to tone down the "we are just for gamers" messaging. The home screen is vastly different to what shipped from the Xbox 360. That's actually in part because Microsoft played around with a lot of different user interfaces on the 360 before eventually settling on this tile-like design for the Xbox One. It does feel semi-inspired by Windows 10. I always wanted to feel a little bit more like a console and a little bit less like a computer. Do you feel that the load times of everything have gotten longer from the last gen, but a way more sophisticated menu to create your avatar? You can see the shine on the face. It's pretty impressive. It's definitely the era of the connected game. Difference is crazy. It's screwed away. It's running at 60 frames per second for the first time. There's absolutely no way that the Xbox 360 could render that many things at one time. And they've also finally added in those modern day staples like clicking down the analog stick to sprint or being able to scope in using the left trigger. One of the other things that Microsoft has improved this time around is the latency of the controller. The first time they went wireless with the 360, there was just a little bit of delay, but that's gone now. The scale of the game means that you no longer feel like you're part of a vacuum. You feel like you're in a war. can't wipe the grid off like this. Unfortunately, while it was a big step up, it still wasn't quite as powerful as the competing PlayStation 4. While Sony built the PS4 from the ground up with sole purpose for it, Microsoft said themselves that they purposefully did not target the highest end graphics with the Xbox One in favor of a broader focus on entertainment. And so, just being that tiny bit behind PlayStation in terms of performance, landed Xbox with a reputation of being the console for youths who weren't really serious about gaming. Anyway, obviously, after all of this, Microsoft realized they'd shot themselves in the foot with the whole multimedia thing. So, they set out on a mission to turn things around. Releasing Xbox One for you to buy without the Kinect, scrapping initially planned features like the always online restrictions, and allowing the use of pre-owned games. And most importantly, creating two new revisions of the console, the Xbox One S and the Xbox One X. And this was one of the best decisions Microsoft ever made. So, starting with the One S, it comes in a smaller, neater box with three compartments. We've got one which has the HDMI cable, a slightly updated controller, and the mains adapter. One which has the game code for Forza Horizon 4 and some manuals. Seems like there's great use of space. One, which is the console. So, why is this such a great idea? Well, it's because Microsoft were kind of right with the original Xbox One, in assuming that there were a lot of people who wanted a high-end gaming device, and also a lot of people who wanted a fast, smooth, connected TV box. The mistake they made, though, was to assume that those were the same groups of people. They were, in fact, largely two separate groups, but this new strategy of two separate consoles allowed them to target specifically. So this One S is the TV box. It's designed to just slot into your cabinet and forget about it. It's slimmer than the original console, it runs quieter, it has HDR and 4K Blu-ray support, and the new controller has built-in Bluetooth, which gives it longer range. And you might have also noticed that there was no power supply box, and that's because the One S is a beat. They managed to make this console smaller, while also cramming the entire power supply inside the body, while also making this way cheaper than the launch Xbox One, at just $299. And then you've got the One X, which is kind of Microsoft's way of overcompensating. It's then saying to gamers, hold up, you said you wanted power, right? Well, here's the most powerful console to ever exist. You get a 14-day free trial for Xbox Live Gold. How generous. An HDMI cable, the same controller as the S, a power cable, and then the One X itself. No frills, definitely no Kinect. This console is just pure numbers. It has a faster CPU, faster GPU, 50% more RAM, double the storage at 1 terabyte, and of course, full 4K HDR support for its games. This thing is 4.5 times faster than the Xbox One, which means that compared to the original Xbox, we're talking approximately 563 times more powerful. Okay, I'm ready to experience the power. It's actually an even more streamlined controller. There's a whole new boot up screen as well, which is basically Xbox saying, we've got power. I remember the marketing around this console was basically just the word 4K/ever. With this controller, they actually added this like micro dot texture on the back. So while the Xbox One X was not a completely new platform from the Xbox One, it still has the same library of games. There were quite a few developers who took it as an opportunity to make the definitive enhanced version of their existing game. Like the Halo 5. This is so long to load. Come on, Microsoft! One thing Microsoft have done a really good job with though is keeping the console quiet. Like, all I can hear right now is still the Xbox 360 over there. So this is running at 4K, 60 frames per second now. It is the exact same game, the exact same effects as that. The resolution bump shows you a level of detail that you couldn't see before. So it's not kind of feel for next generation. Plus, the developers also use the extra power of the One X to increase the draw distances. So you just see even further. Isn't it kind of crazy though that this console, after just a few years of the Xbox One's release, is so much more powerful and yet so much smaller? So yeah, while the One was definitely not the One S and the One X were enough for Microsoft to draw their total Xbox One sales all the way up to a respectable 58 million units. And since then, it's pretty clear they've held on tight to the lessons they learned. Because in 2020, when it came to the next generation, right from the get-go, they launched two consoles with the exact same strategy. The Series S, a media-focused machine at $299, and the Series X, a gaming-focused machine at $499. But this time, because these two consoles were built from the ground up for these different principal users, they're even more specialized. So for the Series S, the box is pretty standard Microsoft software. Now, once you get it open, oh my gosh, this thing's tiny. It's wrapped like a piece of sushi. There's a power cable, HDMI, a next generation controller, and then the console. So yeah, this is the smallest Xbox ever. It's like a box, making it the easiest console ever to just slip into your cabinet and never see it again. Fun because I said no. They did cut the disk drive in the process, partly for size reasons, partly for cost reasons, and probably also partly to try and push people to try Microsoft's monthly subscription Game Pass service, which gives you access to a Netflix-like rotating library, but for games. And then in terms of power, it's a bit of a weird one, because the Series S is a new console with completely modern internals and next-gen features, but it's also a much cheaper machine than the One X that just launched 3 years prior. And so on paper, it actually ends up a bit weaker in terms of like the raw grunt available. But there's a significant benefit just to being new. Like because both the Series S and the X feature solid-state drives instead of traditional old-school spinning hard drives, it load up built-in disks. This is even more textured than the last controller. Even the triggers are real. The entire controller except the face buttons is found unmatched, which I guess is like function overformed. There's a new hero game on the block. This is Halo Infinite. And you might be thinking, well, this is a weaker console, right? How is it going to in any way play a game better than the One X? But this is what I was saying, it's a really weird balance. So technically this console runs the game at a lower resolution, 1080p versus 4K, but it's doing so with next generation effects. Oh, and also it can run games up to 120 frames per second. So for example, look at the Brian Holding. It's got a whole other layer of visual detail. And it also supports these next generation effects, like ray tracing. The firing animations are insane. Look at all this. You can also feel the controller rumble. It's noticeably subtler than what by the first Xbox. And it's such the first time you can actually see that the needles in the gun are crystals. And I guess the other thing that modern games have got better at is finding interesting ways for you to travel. So in this case, you get a grappling hook that lets you attach yourself to anything. Cool. It's impossible to argue that the Series S doesn't get some really impressive output for the cost. It's just not close to the level of its bigger brother, the Series X. And the premium tier of this console becomes immediately apparent the second you open the box. This is a different experience altogether. Matte black, loads of attention to detail, and done a really good job of making this feel like a Christmas present. There's also a power cable, HDMI, a Series X controller, and the Series X. Definitely one of the more unique shaped ones I've ever. This really is the generation of strange, space-age console designs. But I mean, compared to the PlayStation 5, which Sony wanted to look like nothing else in the living room, the Xbox Series X's boxy, fridge-like design makes it look more like a PC, which is kind of nice because that's what Microsoft has always done best. The Series X takes the S and overclocks the CPU from 3.6 GHz to 3.8, dials up the 10 GB of RAM to 16, and quadruples the amount of graphics power. So, let's see what 1,125 times the performance of the original Xbox looks like. Time for the Series X. The difference that high dynamic range makes is very much day and night. It feels like when it comes to loading times, they started fast, they got slow, and now they're actually getting more serious. Incredible. I mean, yeah, it's the same game as the Series X, but playing clear, it actually feels bigger than the jump from the One and the One X. It's partly because we have a larger, better screen here, but you also need a console that can take advantage of that. The combination of sound design with haptics makes every movement feel so precise. And here's the one thing that hasn't changed. I guess the one thing you could say Xbox has played it quite safely is the controller. Compared to Sony, who's built with pressure-sensitive triggers, I guess Microsoft's focusing more on backwards compatibility and keeping all the core things in place. Right, let's get one big shot of all the consoles together. So, as you can probably imagine, to make a video like this, I spent a lot of time shopping in some of the weirder parts of the internet. And to do that, while keeping complete peace of mind, I used Surfshark VPN. So I actually unfortunately got hacked a few years ago, on Christmas Day. And fighting back against those hackers to regain controls of my accounts was one of the most harrowing experiences of my life. It basically happened because my account details were part of a data breach and they got leaked. But I could have prevented the entire thing just by using Surfshark Alert. It's like having your very own online radar, that as soon as your email address appears in any online data breach, will detect it and alert you so that you can immediately change it. And this is the fun bit. Alert also comes with a VPN that allows you to swap your location to whatever you want it to be. The simplest antivirus that I've ever used, as well as an internet search that's both ad-free and traffic-free. Really ready for the shop. And while it's already cheap at around $4 a month, if you just use the coupon code BOSS, you will get an 83% discount, as well as 3 months for free, and a 30-day money-back guarantee. This is incredible. What a brand.
There's tricks you gotta take, and the ones you wanna take, and if you save your way, well, it ain't so far away. Sit down and flex the discount, the better, make it count. Only at Hotels.com.
I've just bought every single Nintendo home console ever. We've got a TV from the time of each one's release, and even the mini Super Mario game for every single one. So let's see how much better the gaming experience has become. Nintendo's first home console, the NES, proved to come at a worse time in the West. The company had had huge success with their arcade machines, but when it finally came to entering the living room in the early 1980s, the entire video game market just so happened to be experiencing what's still known as the Great Video Game Crash of 1983. Put simply, everyone was making games consoles. There had become far too many to choose from, and every single one had their own separate, confusing selection of rushed or quality games. The entire reputation of a video game console was the worst that it had ever been, to the point where critics were even saying that gaming is a fad and that the entire concept would actually die out in a couple of years. But this didn't put Nintendo off, and in fact they did something very clever to try and spin it to their advantage. They created a games console that like the games console, and they called it the Nintendo Entertainment System to avoid the stigma that came with the term video game. They even bundled two controllers in the box to make it more of a family living room item than something just for the solo gamer. This was a calculated move. This entire package is so unbelievably old that it almost just looks alien, doesn't it? The controllers, the types of cables and adapters you find here, none of it even resembles what we use today. I can't believe I got this on a console in 1985. And this TV, I've never seen anything like it. And apparently it turns on like... No. Try that again. Now we turn the console on. Wait. What? The game is booted up the second you turn the power button on. And unless you've got physical dials to be able to adjust the picture profile on the screen. This entire thing is just so satisfying. This is going to sound ridiculous, but bear with me here. Because with a 1.7 megahertz processor, a whole 2 gigabytes of RAM, and a maximum resolution of 240p, the NES was actually stacked like a next-gen machine compared to the Atari 2600 that people were playing before. And as a huge fan of just video games in general, the easiest part of this for me is that this console is the console where Nintendo launched the first ever Zelda game, and more importantly, the first ever Mario game. Like, all one controller in. Oh my gosh, this feels like such a moment in gaming history. Like, imagine if we could take a small group of developers that made this and showed them what Mario would actually become today. You can hear that same jump sound even in today's games. It's crazy that the entire game basically works with one face button. The text itself is kind of hard to read because of how low the resolution is, but the game is very playable today. Regardless, this little red plumber was an instant hit. And when you combine Mario with the console's beautiful clean graphics, its branding as a must-have toy instead of a games console, as well as its rock-bottom price of $250 in today's money, you can probably see how it became the most popular console in history, selling 61.9 million units, which is enough that Nintendo can arguably save the entire video game industry. But by the time they decided to release the NES successor, they didn't even have to worry about the dying market anymore. And what a success it was. The Super Nintendo Entertainment System, released about 5 years later at a much higher price tag of $450 in today's money, was basically an NES with every aspect dialed up to the max. To start with, the controller was probably the single most important controller ever made, bringing in a smoother, more hand-friendly design, and two extra face buttons, X and Y, that set the standard for how all future controllers would be made, and also shoulder buttons. All controllers up until this point relied almost entirely on their thumbs as the only input. But this controller is what made gamers realize that actually every single finger could be an input, and this would allow the games with a need to learn. Whether it be drifting in Super Mario Kart, or aiming your arm cannon diagonally in Super Metroid, yeah, Nintendo loved using the word Super. It was basically their way of saying next gen. And there's a similarly enormous set of cables and adapters to last time, then the SNES itself, which actually lighter than I expected for something that's an absolute beast in performance. And I'm not exaggerating when I use the term beast. The way to calculate graphics power is a little complex for these early consoles, but just to give you an idea of how much more capable it could be, the SNES is 64 times the amount of RAM versus their last one. What is it? Flip-flops on these old TVs. I love the crickets and everything. It's also so crazy that this is what the games used to look like, and then to turn the console on there is a switch. Nintendo Switch. Ah, that's so much better. The music in this video is filmed. And it's also noticeably higher resolution music than the last console. In a way, the SNES was the pinnacle of 2D gaming, just before the 3D era. With this much power, developers could basically make any 2D game they wanted to. So if we compare Super Mario World on the SNES versus Super Mario Bros. On the NES, backgrounds feel so much more alive, with multiple layers moving at different speeds as you walk to simulate things being closer and further away from you. It's also a shocking amount sharper. Like, text on this is barely readable. This one has like no problems at all. And objects also have proper lighting and shadows for the first time ever. Now that that has become my benchmark, I can almost feel the wonder that people must have felt when stepping into this game for the first time. Why am I excited by the fact that Mario has a huge skinny jump? The SNES didn't quite count the sales figures of the original NES, but for a console released only a few years later, the fact that it still sold 49 million units is nothing to be scoffed at. But with consoles like Sony's first PlayStation leading the charge into 3D gaming very shortly after, Nintendo had to find a way to keep up. Enter Nintendo 64. Named after its new 64-bit chip that can now process data in larger chunks at a time, making it perfect for 3D. This box is so wacky. Love it. And the controller, equally so. But as much as it does look like something Batman might throw at a villain's face, this was just as big of a deal as the SNES controller. Thanks to the invention of the analog stick by a Nintendo employee. You're going to start to notice a theme in this video, that even more so than the machines themselves, the key to Nintendo's console success is all about controller innovation. You know, you've got the console, which is almost as weird as a controller. Now here's the thing, the Nintendo 64 had all the ingredients for its landing. Firstly, as you might have guessed by how it's literally named after its new processor, this was the most powerful console in the world. The fact that we had a 64-bit processor in a machine that was literally $300 in today's money, this was almost science fiction. And it made this thing approximately 30 times more powerful than the SNES. Or, what's even harder to grasp, 1,920 times more powerful than the NES. Why is there a button here? It makes no sense. The analog stick was a game changer. The analog stick made for Nintendo 64 the most natural way to traverse 3D environments. Plus, the biggest thing that separated Nintendo from other console titans like Sony and Microsoft was the fact that they weren't just console designers, they were game developers. So they never just made the box and then hoped lots of great games were made for it. They made the box and the main game that you want to buy with it. I'm just now realizing this has 4 controller ports compared to 2 on a Blue Plus console. The N64 was home to truly legendary games, like Zelda Ocarina of Time, GoldenEye, yes, 64. We're gonna test it. Thankfully a TV, I understand. Love these switches. The other upside is that your pet can no longer turn your gaming console on. You can actually see it take a minute to get to the right level of brightness. Oh my god. I can't even begin to describe the difference here. Mario 64 might just be the most influential video game ever. You can see how Mario 64 was the proof of concept for how future 3D worlds would work, how you'd be able to move within them, how the camera would follow you, and how you'd be able to interact with objects inside of it. Remember, this is all new. You could argue that SNES games have actually aged better, because 2D games that look like that are still a thing now, whereas 3D games that look like this are not. But putting myself in the shoes of someone whose best gaming experience so far was that, and handing them this, I would have liked to see their reactions. So why didn't it do better? Even with all of this going for it, the N64 only managed to sell 32.9 million units in its lifetime, which always makes it seem like Nintendo is trying so hard to do nothing. And to put it simply, it's because they now had a major competitor in PlayStation. The PS1, while not as capable on paper, beat Nintendo to market with a 3D capable machine by 2 years, which was enough of a lead that all the pioneers who really wanted a 3D console, they already had it. This was no doubt extremely frustrating for Nintendo. So when it came time for their follow-up console, the GameCube, they made sure that they released closer to the next PlayStation, the PS2, and they made sure that they used a similar disc-based format. They made sure that when it came to power, they beat it. And that with the machine itself, they outdid them completely. This is a very meaty console. Everything in this box is just much denser than before. The wiring, the controller that looks like it's from another planet, and of course the machine itself. It genuinely gives off the vibe of a really supercomputer, apart from the big little analog box that ultimately like a light box. But the console does send a very clear message. If you want to play 3D games with incredible graphics, this is the box for you. And it has the specs to back it up too. Compared to the N64, it's approximately 5 times more powerful. Be ready for yet another nostalgia hit. Oh my god. It's the GameCube screen. You can instantly tell it's high resolution. Gotta say, Nintendo was definitely playing the weird cards here. Nothing about this controller makes any sense. Like, only one side of the controller has 2 shoulder buttons. The second analog stick is so tiny and strange. And the face buttons too. What is this arrangement? The shoulder buttons travel so far, and when you get to the bottom they have this click. That's so nice. I can see why people still use this thing today. Simba is behind the consoles. Please don't unplug anything. There we go. This is an enormous job. Like, the amount of effects on display here is a world above. The picture looks amazing. I really feel how hot it is in the game because of how huge it distorts things that are further away. The resolution is 480p, or 4.5 times the number of pixels versus the N64, which is an enormous jump. But I wouldn't say it looks 4.5 times as sharp, which is at least in part due to the fact that the N64 was designed with CRT TVs in mind. And also the fact that with later consoles, Nintendo has opted for a smoother, more refined look. I almost feel bad for Nintendo, because even with the intense focus on trying to make the best console they possibly could, even with an exceptional controller and a pretty reasonable price of $330 in today's money, the GameCube sold even worse than the N64, with a total of 21.75 million units. And you could point to the lack of online gaming as a reason, or maybe the fact that the GameCube focused too much on Nintendo's own games and lacked third-party support. But I think the crux of it is just the competition. The PS2 was up against consoles like nothing we've ever seen before, at 158 million units. Not to mention, Xbox had just joined the battle too, with huge games like Halo and Fable further squeezing Nintendo's share of the gaming pie. But this failure taught Nintendo their most important lesson yet. It's time to talk about the Wii. And if you're enjoying this video, then a sub to the channel would be really good.
There's trips you gotta take, and the ones you wanna take, and when you save your way, well, it ain't so far away. See now where the next discount, to learn for later, and make it count. Only at hotels.com.
It took until this point, 2006, for Nintendo to realize that they didn't want to compete with PlayStation and Xbox anymore. But more importantly, that they didn't need to. That the joy of gaming didn't require the most chunky, extremely powered machine. And so with this console, there was a complete paradigm shift in thinking. This is when Nintendo started focusing on fun. And in doing so, created their most successful, widely appealing console ever. In fact, without even unboxing the console, you can already see how they managed to appeal to the everyday person who might not even call themselves a gamer. This is the most organized console package I've ever seen, with 2 drawers to separate the different parts. And it comes with literally everything, an enormous option. operations manual, a stand to keep the console upright. There's yet another controller that had never been seen before, and arguably the craziest one yet, even a case to protect the controller. Who does that? These companies make so much money off players breaking their controllers and then having to buy new ones. But there's more. You've got the sensor bar to detect motion from the controllers, a couple of cables for power and connection to the TV, and then the machine itself. And this is also very different. You can probably tell by how it only takes up a small part of the overall package. The console's tiny size and its simple design. That's far less about trying to look like a high-end gaming rig like most consoles, and it's actually really big. That the promise of the Wii isn't really about the console. The hardware itself is only a 1.27 times improvement over the GameCube, which by gaming console standards is completely unheard of. And this must have been a very scary move for Nintendo to make, because each generation up until this point was all about power. More power was the entire way that you could offer gamers new possibilities with more games. And while Nintendo was sat here making 1.27 times improvements, Super Mario was often making 20, 30x improvements with their hardware. But what it all came down to was this. This was when Nintendo's continuous focus on controller innovation finally paid off. You'll notice it looks a lot like the TV remotes, and that even the Wii's interface looks like a TV's interface, with each app being a channel that you want to have your remote at. None of this was an accident. Given that Nintendo was now purposefully giving up on the traditional hardcore console gamer, they needed to make sure that this console was as simple as possible for the new, more casual audience they were now going after. People who never used a games console before. How do you do that? Well, make it as similar as possible to what they're already used to. Yes, I've got my own personalized Wii ready to go. Love this music. Such a hype band. Right, play some games. It's so weird, like to play this game you also have to attach what they call the nunchuck accessory, just really to give you a joystick. Okay, so you can definitely tell that the game objects have stepped up in complexity. The game is also a little bit sharper, but it definitely doesn't feel next gen. To be honest, I'd say the biggest change as far as the gameplay is concerned is more the ambition of the title itself. Nintendo's gone from exploring an island to exploring galaxies. But do you know what actually sealed the deal for this console? It was the fact that every single Wii at launch came bundled with a free copy of Sports, which was little more than a minigame concept. 5 different sports that you can play with these always chronically low-budget little characters. Gamers laughed at it, but their grandmas didn't. For a casual gamer, this was the most seamless, organic gaming experience they've ever had before. You could have your entire family playing at the same time. You could customize these characters to look like people playing, and the gameplay itself required no joke, zero explanation. All leading the Wii to shatter everyone's sales expectations at 102 million units. But the best part of this is that they did this not by stealing Sony and Xbox's market share, but instead bringing a whole new audience into the world of gaming. So, Nintendo finally got that big break they worked so hard for. But where'd you go from there? Well, you. No, not me, you. Yes, I'm you. And I gotta say, this is the least Nintendo feeling unboxing experience. It was very much a weighty, premium, more mature package than the more toy-like appearance of past consoles. Another enormous manual pack, again, free game in the box, perhaps trying to replicate the success of Wii Sports with the Wii. And being a premium pack, this box is absolutely rammed with all manner of peripherals. We haven't even got to the second part of the package, which has the console. Oh my god, this is the best feel I've ever experienced. It's really good. And then, yet another completely new type of controller. So here's what I think happened with the Wii U. Nintendo thought, okay, we've got the casual gamer. The Wii brand is so strong and uncontested that when we release the next gen Wii, all those casual gamers are obviously going to buy it. But how do we make this also appeal to traditional gamers? Because remember, that's where the major money is. While the original Wii proved that casual gamers will buy consoles, they tend to be far less interested in buying lots of games for them. This is why I think Nintendo's gone for such mature packaging. This is why they offer the console in both the casual basic version as well as the slick young premium version. This is why Nintendo's gone back to making big power jumps, with the Wii U's graphics processing unit being slated 20 times more powerful than the Wii's, making it approximately 240,000 times more powerful than the original NES. And this is why they came up with the Wii U gamepad. This was the key selling point of Nintendo's marketing. A gamepad that can connect to the console over Wi-Fi and stream the game running on the console onto the screen of your handheld, which had two major implications. That you could A, play the majority of your games entirely on the gamepad, providing within range, which meant that even if someone else wanted to use the TV to watch the sports game, you could still carry on using your console in its entirety, which is actually wildly impressive to look at. This is so much slicker and sharper and faster than the Wii's interface, but also it allows you to have a dual screen experience. Nintendo had already found with their handheld DS consoles that there was an appetite for one screen that showed you the main gameplay and then a secondary screen that you could interact with. And the Wii U basically brought that same concept into the home console realm. The gamepad truly feels like it was designed for the real nerd gamer. So, neat. While Nintendo made sure that the Wii U also still worked with their old motion controllers to capture that same magic for the casual player. Oh wow, this is truly next generation compared to that. This immediately makes Nintendo Wii look old school. It's got real-time shadows too, so you can see as I hop onto the screen, the shade is also present on my character. As far as graphics are concerned, this is an everything upgrade. This is textures, lighting, shadows, effects. This is 720p gaming running at 60 frames per second. The jump is literally the difference between feeling retro and feeling modern day. The problem, though, is that I think in trying to appeal to both serious and casuals, they'd actually appeal to neither. They tried to make the console look and sound similar to the Wii, to signal to the casual fans that this is the new Wii, but in doing so made it thoroughly unexciting for the serious gamers, who dismissed it out the gate as just more simple mini-games. This new gamepad wasn't enough to satisfy the serious gamers who wanted big screen experiences, not small screen experiences. And at the same time, it was just confusing to the more casual players, making the Wii seem like an add-on for the Wii as opposed to the new console entirely. And 3, it wasn't powerful enough to take on the PS4, but it was powerful enough that when paired with all the other sensors that you need to make this work, it was very expensive. With the deluxe pack that I've got here, starting at $450 in today's money. As someone who was a handheld gamer first, I actually loved the Wii U, and I was so unbelievably jealous of those who could pre-order it and actually hold one of these in their hands. But it didn't take long to find out that commercially, this was a complete failure. Selling less than any other Nintendo home console in history. Oh no! But it's funny how these things work, because for the second time, right after Nintendo's biggest failure, they're about to have their biggest success. The Nintendo Switch is actually a very similar idea to the Wii U before it, but it's just the extra 5 years of tech advancements that have happened since then allowed Nintendo but it's just the extra 5 years of tech advancements that have happened since then allow Nintendo to actually execute the concept properly. It's a smaller, lighter box than before. You get a power cable and then a bunch of accessories for, would you believe it, a completely new type of controller, the Joy-Cons, and then the console, which is a little different. Well, I'm just going to say it now. I think the Nintendo Switch is the most intelligently designed console on this planet. The idea is the same as the Wii U, of being able to play your games either on the big screen or in handheld, but because the power is located in the handheld itself, as opposed to having to stream it over Wi-Fi, you can take this console anywhere and instantly resume your game from where you left off. All while it charges up the Joy-Cons automatically. But it gets better, because the way these Joy-Cons are able to separate from the console and can work independently by just flipping them sideways means that they're not a multiplayer game. And then the cherry on top is that by embedding them with gyro sensors, they even managed to recreate the motion controls of the Wii and the Wii U without needing to stick a freaking sensor on top of your TV. Now, the Switch is not super impressive to the nerd within it, with a pretty crummy display by smartphone standards, and occasional issues with the Joy-Con joysticks drifting even when you're not touching them, and also just the simple fact that this is not a big power upgrade. Being only about 1.5 times the power of the Wii U, or about 317,000 times the power of the NES, which, when you put it that way, actually sounds really impressive. But the key thing is that in the exact same way that Nintendo managed to separate themselves from Sony and Xbox with the Wii, by targeting a completely new type of gamer, the Switch has also been separated by being a legitimate handheld console in its own right. Now, all that stuff about power said, this is still a definitively better gaming experience than the Wii U. It's a combination of modern graphical techniques, of more advanced ways to interact with the environment, more complex game mechanics, better control of the camera, just all the kind of modern quality of life improvements that you expect with a game today. Like the way that I can spin the hat on my head by using motion controls is really immersive. The best compliment I could give it is that I play games on a PlayStation 5, and coming from that, this is good enough that it doesn't feel jarring. And when you pair the frankly genius design of the console itself with a games lineup that includes all the main series Pokemon games, Zelda Breath of the Wild, and Animal Crossing and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, I'm not even surprised that this thing has already sold 111 million units, and we're partway through its life cycle. I don't think I've ever seen a more beautiful site than what I'm looking at right now. Except maybe this app called Honeybeam. It's a genuinely fascinating concept. When you install the app on your device, it runs as a background task, allowing you to share your internet connection and earn money from it. There are a whole load of trusted companies out there, like price comparison sites, who actually need access to lots of different internet connections from around the world like this, to, for example, be able to locate the cheapest deals for their users. And companies like this pay Honeybeam to access this crowdsourced network, and Honeybeam pays you for being a part of it. It's not going to pay for your next mansion in LA, but millions of people already use what they earn from Honeybeam to pay for their Netflix or Spotify subscriptions. And just to be clear, it's not sharing any of your personal information with these companies, just literally whatever is left on your data plan that you weren't going to use anyway. And I have a gift for you. Hit the link in the description and use my code BOSS while signing up to Honeybeam and get your first $5 right away.
There's trips you gotta take, and the ones you wanna take. And with you to save your way, well, they ain't so far away. Susan with an instant discount, to make for later and making it out. Only at Hotels.com. There's trips you gotta take, and the ones you wanna take. And with you to save your way, well, they ain't so far away. Susan with an instant discount, to make for later and making it out. Only at Hotels.com.
I've just bought every single PlayStation brand new. You've got a TV from the time of each one's release, and even the same game on all of them. So let's find out how much the gaming experience has evolved over time. It might sound strange now, but the original PlayStation is actually a massive waste of Sony. Because, put simply, Sony was a no-no. In 1994, the entire gaming market was just two companies. Nintendo, who hit a home run with the creation of Mario and had about 40% market share, Sega, who having created Sonic, their equivalent to Mario, the market by storm, which a share of 5%. Both of these titans were fighting tooth and nail to try and make their mascot the greatest 2D platformer of all time. But soon you realise something, that now, at that time, yeah, this is a real sealed PlayStation 1 straight from 1994. And inside we've got the video adapter, the video TV upright connectors, the AC adapter to plug into the mains, the controller, which is of course wired, and so hopefully it turns on. Sound. That's basically the sound of a cathode ray gun shooting electrons at the display panel. That's actually why they're called CRT TVs, are on the original PlayStation. That's a new sound experience for the display. It's actually making me kind of sad that modern technology has no moving parts. The controller is so light, it kind of feels like it's not even there. And also, look at this, no analog sticks. There's one thing Sony smashed, its buttons. This is so nice. Now, with only 2 megabytes of RAM, a maximum resolution of 480p, and no internal storage, the PS1 stats might sound pitiful by modern standards. I actually went to Amazon a 120 kilobyte storage card for it, which is only weird thing to do in 2022. But at the time when it was released, at today's equivalent of $570, this was the most powerful console ever buy. So this is Gran Turismo running on a PS1, and if you compare it to Nintendo or Sega's supposed 3D offerings, you'll quickly notice that Sony is the only one capable of rendering real models with real reflections on cars. That's insane in comparison, but wait till you see what the next PlayStation can do. Sony also realized that they couldn't just be more powerful, their brand also had to be different to their competitors. And their way of doing that was swapping the controller letters with shapes. And it wasn't because Sony loved geometry, shapes had significance. For example, the blue cross and the red circle, they represent yes and no, which even now to this day is still what they used for in games. Sony did also follow up the original PlayStation with what's referred to as the PlayStation Slim, but if you're being really honest, we won't be here forever if we start on the variations of this console. So, long story short, this company saw an opportunity and they absolutely smashed it with the first PlayStation. They completely wiped out Sega for good, practically pulled Nintendo's concept, coming out of nowhere with the PS1 becoming the first console ever to pass 100 million units sold. So, how did Sony top that? Well, only by releasing the best-selling console in the history of consoles. Sony's approach to the PlayStation 2, released in 2000 at about $485 in today's money, was significantly cheaper than the PS1, and they summed up in one phrase. If it ain't broke, they fix it. The PS2 is evolution, not revolution. And the unboxing experience also mirrors that philosophy. To get an upgraded controller, as well as a similar AC cable and TV adapter to Master. Oh, it's both like so many lemons. Almost everything about the PS2 is a direct, no frills improvement over its predecessor. It comes with about 12 times the amount of raw processing power, depending on how you measure it, 16 times the amount of RAM, and no less than 63 times the amount of storage on the typical memory card. This has 8 megabytes. Remember, back in the day, consoles didn't used to have these enormous hard drives inside of them to be able to install games onto. The entire game would be fit onto the game disc itself. And so the only extra storage you needed was just a memory card for your save files, which you could then take out and carry your saves to your friend's house with. If we turn the PS2 on, so my Carlsberg uses the eject button here. That sounds amazing. It's very easy actually text all these things are. That difference is crazy! The difference versus the PS1 is absolutely night and day. The processing power that allows it to render many times the amount of polygons on screen, which reduces the blocking look of the PS1 era. And the extra RAM allows for background textures to just have way more going on in them. Like even the finish line banner without loads of bounce in the wind. And the master stroke with the PS2 is how Sony managed to, through the design of the console, make it extremely clear that this was a next-gen dedicated. There's been a few consoles in the past, like Nintendo's Wii U, that look so similar to their last-gen counterparts that people thought that they were just add-ons. Not here. The PS2's design is far more bulky and angular, with this grille that was really meant to evoke the feeling of an engine, something capable of real power. That, combined with some of the best games of the generation, led the PlayStation 2 to break every record ever set, selling 158 million units. You had Nintendo's GameCube and Microsoft's original Xbox also around at this time, but they didn't even sell anything as much as the PS2. And to keep up with the increasing complexity of the games, Sony also upgraded the controller, something they called Dual, which is a combination of dual analog sticks and built-in rumble. So you can really feel the texture of the grass, and if you're not a good driver like me, the texture of the wall. Sony wasn't kidding with the word rumble. The PS2 was also technically the first time you could play your games online, but you had to rely on the individual game developers to create their own servers, as Sony did develop their own infrastructure for online connectivity. Until PlayStation 3. Arguably the first Sony console to properly herald in the digital age. This time round, the internet was a focus, hence it included Ethernet cable, as well as the TV output cables and the USB mini cable to charge the further upgraded wireless controller. I probably don't need to tell you that the PS3 was also the boldest console Sony had ever made. Look at this beautiful. Plus, do you recognize that text? Yeah, that's the Spider-Man box. So Sony owns the Spider-Man IP, and they thought it would help them to sell more consoles. It did not. The good news is that the PS3 took some notes from the PS2 in the ramp everything up department. The bad news is that this time that also included price. To try and make the PS3 feel like a completely new era in gaming, Sony had a special custom cell processor designed just for it, but this was really expensive, pushing the launch price of this console all the way up to $869 in today's money. Supremely pricey, especially given the console's plastic exterior. Oh boy, this is hard. As a matter of fact, as an overall system, it's about 35 times more powerful than the PS2, making it 384 times more powerful than the PS1. These are ridiculous numbers. In fact, the PS3 was so advanced that it was actually used to build supercomputers, including a pretty genius move by Stanford University researchers who developed an app called Folding Antiquity, which allowed PS3 users to dedicate a portion of their supercomputing power to aid with complex protein folding calculations, used to learn more about how to prevent diseases like Alzheimer's. So that's a pretty good games. So I never actually owned a PS3 at launch, but I remember how I felt when my friend got one for the first time. It really felt like a machine from the future. Like I remember being just giddy with excitement that something of this power actually existed. You also noticed they've actually started putting attention to how the disc slip is on. And the disc loading mechanism, that's all inside the console now. There's no tray that comes in and out. Or deeper. And nothing back here. It's only on the home screen. You can kind of see that this is the point where the console became much more than just a place to play video games. It's the first time there's a pop-up home screen that you would actually want to spend time on. This literally used to be one of the coolest things in the world to me. The fact that you could change your home screen color. Oh yeah, your phone's time. Spend a lot of time there. You think at that point that you can't make the same generation move again. But this is it. And also you can actually feel the mechanics of the game becoming more sophisticated as well. There's more physics involved. One problem that PS3 owners used to have though was that because the on-off button is capacitive, they're could often turn the console off. Don't get any ideas. So now we have the PS3 Gran Turismo next to the PS2, next to the PS1. Oh, we can complete this line. But already, the is nominal. The first key difference being resolution. While the PS1 is outputting the game at 512 by 240, the PS2 is pushing over 3 times more pixels at 852 by 480. And the PS3 was running at 2 times that at 1280 by 720. Or in other words, for the very first time, true high definition gaming. This is basically the difference between you going into the settings on this video and swapping between 240p, 480p, and 720p. Massive. But it's not just more pixels, it's also much more complex effects. One of the most impressive things about the PlayStation 3 was its ability to also handle almost lifelike lighting, shadows, and reflections. Not to mention vast, sprawling backgrounds. Something else I'm noticing is how much nicer the controller is. It's wireless, it's weightier, because it's now got an inbuilt battery, it also has motion sensor built into it. And also, compared to the PS2's controller, the triggers just have much more travel. They call this the 6-axis controller, because as well as all the buttons, you can also pick up how you move the controller itself and translate that into code. Even though it was the home to god-tier games like Grand Theft Auto 5 and The Last of Us, even though it was where Sony launched their free online PlayStation Network service, even though it also doubles as a media machine with full Blu-ray disc compatibility, Sony really screwed up that pricing. It ended up selling 84 million units, barely half of the PS2, and is slightly outsold by Microsoft's Xbox 360. Sony was on the back foot again, and needed to do something special. Thankfully, Microsoft did their job for them. When the PlayStation 4 launched up against the Xbox One in 2013, Microsoft screwed up their marketing so badly that Sony could have re-released the PlayStation 3 and probably still won. The fact that Microsoft forced users to also buy the Kinect camera with the console, forced users to be always online, and focused almost completely on how the next-gen Xbox would work as a TV box rather than a games console. It made it almost too easy for teamwork. Sony even took to the stage to rip apart the Xbox One's deliberate inability to play borrowed games. This is how you share your game from and it was pretty much game over at that point. Now, when you add to this that the PS4 was also insanely well designed, it starts to make sense why it popped off. Like, check out the new DualShock 4 controller. It incorporates the DualShock tech from the PS2 controller and the 6-axis motion sensing from the PS3 controller, and it makes both aspects much more refined. The analog sticks are now also further apart, and they concave with better grip. There's a new share button, which reflects the shift to social gaming. Plus, we've also got an RGB LED light in the front as an identifier for which playing you are, a speaker in the controller itself for a directional sound experience, and even a 2-inch touchpad in the middle for menu navigation. I remember the moment that I got hold of one of these for the first time, and I was just sat there like an idiot, like turning it over and over in my hands for 10 minutes straight, thinking, oh how, this is real. The PS4 is about 10 times more powerful than the PS3, making it, the numbers are getting kind of out of hand at this point, about 3,800 times as powerful as the PS1. It had 8 gigabytes of RAM, which is 32 times the PS3, 4,096 times the original PlayStation. And not to mention that because the PS4 is based off a less custom, more standard PC-like architecture, it's way easier for developers to work with it and fully extract that power. You know, this kind of reminds me of the really, really early days of this channel. I remember when the PS4 launched, we had about 10,000 subscribers. I know that because we used to cover tons of gaming content at the time, but I would switch handheld because I would never dream of spending this much on one console. I know this section is all about PS4, but all I can hear is PS3. This is actually quite exciting. This is the first time you can turn the console on with the controller. So this is very much a refined version of the PS3's nose, much more blocky in style. Oh my god, listen to it! It's louder than the PS3! Bear with me, this is going to be a nice, quiet machine. I only half claim so this room that we're in is basically a sauna right now. The game. You can also tell the text is way sharper and more readable. You can actually now pick the exact time of day of your race, and it will affect the weather conditions accordingly. You can feel such a visceral difference. The density of the crowd, the light coming directly from the sun. Right, so I've actually filled up a bag with ice just to cool it down, because this is getting ridiculous. We're going to lay it on top of the ice bag. In my mind, this is what a modern racing game looks like. The game almost has like an atmosphere that the other one's lack. I can actually also notice a bit of realistic damage on my car, so upgraded physics too. What do you do with this much power then? Well, I mean, just for starters, a further doubling of the resolution to now 1080p or Full HD. The PS4 could happily fill a 40-inch TV and not look like it was being stretched. And it also just gave developers the headroom to be creative, to build not just detailed backgrounds, but really open worlds, to execute their visions in their entirety. Plus, they could now add pretty much any visual effect they could think of. Dirt particles, motion blur, realistic fog, and it's in these details we really feel the difference versus the PS3. So when you combine all of this, with the fact that the PlayStation 4 also launched at a much friendlier $500 in today's money, it's not surprising that it went on to sell 180 million units, more than doubling Microsoft's competing Xbox One. It's kind of hard to imagine how this masterpiece can actually now be seen as a relic of the past. But the PS5 firmly pushes it aside, cementing itself as the wildest, most futuristic PlayStation to ever exist. And Sony has really run with this idea of futurism. Everything from the controller to the console to the headset they launched alongside it, it all shares this two-tone, ultra-minimalistic, space-age design philosophy. And I freaking love it. The moment I saw the PS5 get announced, I shrieked. Like, what gamer doesn't want a console that looks like a literal alien starship? And I mean, it makes the Xbox Series X that it's competing against look like a prude by comparison. There is also this strangely shaped stand, which actually very cleverly can support the console either horizontally or vertically. But do the internals keep up? Absolutely. The PlayStation 5 dunks on its predecessor. It has 2 times the RAM at 16 GB, and its core graphics processing unit is like 8 times more powerful. And that's not even factoring in its solid-state storage, that's at least 80 times faster than the PlayStation 4 hardware. And this is the fun part about compounding multiples. When compared to the original PS1, PS5 is approximately 30,000 times more powerful. You can make a bridge of PlayStation 1s spanning an entire city, and it still would be able to outperform a single PS5. Let's see how the PS5 compares. This is such a fun video. Hey, if you want to see me make a comparison of every Nintendo console ever, it's like your channel. Oh my god, I'm blinded. Adjust HDR. Oh, that is actually one of the new features here. Just like insane levels of contrast. They were only on the home page. This really... One thing you really notice about the PS5's UI is everything is very visual and full screen. The amount of building, you can see individual settlements in the background. Okay, just look at the difference in colour between this screen and this screen. A lot of that is just the new high dynamic range. I can hear applause coming through the speaker in the controller. You can even see the clouds in the sky reflected on the body of my car and moving in real time. Oh, it's so wrong with you. Okay, this is a huge upgrade, even for the PS4. Not only is the resolution now full 4K, 4 times higher than 1080p, the PS5 is also capable of real-time ray tracing. Meaning that instead of pre-baking the light reflections into the scene, like most video games have done till now, this console can simulate the real physical behavior of light in real time, and how it affects every single pixel on screen. And I can also feel not just the general rumble from my engine thanks to DualShock, but also the physical sensation of putting pressure on the pedal thanks to the adaptive triggers of this controller that can adjust the tension on the fly. Every PlayStation console together in one frame. What a sight. That's how the PS6 is going to look like. Now, as slick as the PS5 does look, there is one way to make it even slicker. These are dark frames, and not only do they make your console matte black, but they add vents to allow more air capacity. They reduce the temperature on the inside of the console, and they also trim the corners to make it more compact. Much needed with the size of this thing, but it's not just a customization for the size of the console. You can also pick up a middle skin to cover up those unavoidable scuffs on the glossy piano black plastic. I've gone for matte black all the way around, but you can also get retro grey, which is colour matched to the original PlayStation 1, or just classic white. And if that's still not enough customization, Darklights have one more trick: light spirits. These are basically light filters that you put on top of the existing light that your PS5 has to change the colour of them to whatever you want. Link below to check out Darklights. To see me buy the weirdest tech on the entire internet, click here. Catch you there.
There's tricks you gotta take, and the ones you wanna take, and with you save your way. Well, Walmart, it ain't so far away. Save now, it's the discount.
We are about to turn this room into the most technologically advanced, next-level cinema and gaming room that you have probably ever seen. I'm literally about to get a call in 8 minutes, and on that call, we actually need to lock in and buy the products that we might well be using for the rest of our lives. And then we will set it up, and we'll experience it together for the first time. I cannot tell you how excited I am. So when I first walked into this room, here's how I thought this was going to go. I thought, oh, cool, the room already has such good noise isolation. We're going to be able to get an awesome projector for like £5,000. The speakers will probably be another 4,000, and then the blank screen, maybe another 1,000. £10,000 total, and it's going to be awesome. But wow, have we seen some crazy stuff you can do to take it further. The first of which is, this is going to be a gaming room just as much as it is a cinema room. So we spent the first couple of days just deciding exactly which gaming consoles we wanted to fill it with, adding in extra TVs and finding a way to hide them in the room, and then realizing that we've already hit our initial budget with that alone. But things only started to get really crazy when we headed to a place called Pulse Cinemas to find out what was possible with the audio and the projector parts of this dream cinema room. And it was super cool because these guys had actually built 3 different tiers of cinema, and each level introduced new layers of technology. But even their tier 1 cinema system, which by the way started at £30,000, had some very cool things going on. Like, one problem that you need to solve if you're going for a high-end cinema is you've got a massive screen in front of you, right? But then where do the speakers go? Yeah, you can put them on the sides, but we very quickly realised that you're going to get the best sound if at least some of those speakers are directly in front of you and facing you. So learning number 1 is that you can't just stick like a whiteboard on your wall as your screen. The best screens are made of woven fabric that is acoustically transparent, so it doesn't interfere with the sound at all, so that you can put some of your speakers behind it. There is a lot more that we've realised you can do, and that we're going to try to do.
So that's going to diffuse the sound, so it can reflect the sound back into the room. If you just put absorbed into a room, it would sound like that you've been to an anechoic chamber, but it would just sound horrible.
Oh dear. So yes, turns out you actually don't just want absorption. Yeah. If you're trying to build a perfect cinema, then you have to actually balance out audio absorption, reflection, and diffusion to make sure that the sound's travelling in the right way around your room. The only remaining thing to do then was to settle into these uber plush reclining chairs to actually see what this £30,000 investment results in.
I've had a string instrument so deep.
And that's partly because this was a 7.2.4 surround sound system. You actually see these numbers thrown around quite a lot in this world, so just so you know, the first number means how many main speakers you have. The second is the number of subwoofers you have, which handle your deep bass notes. Most casual home cinemas will have 1, but these guys went for 2. And then the third number is the number of ceiling speakers, if any, just because those can add a whole extra dimension. So with that, I was so curious, what on earth could tier 2 do? Well, this was a £60,000 room. And as well as the obvious projector and speaker quality upgrade, the other immediately obvious thing is you can't see any of the speakers. This room is showing how if you use the same acoustically transparent material as we previously had just for the screen for your walls too, you can actually create a completely next level bonkers sound setup in which you see no speakers. And that's so cool. But also, it's at this sort of what I would call very high priced here that you start to come into another conundrum. So most home cinemas will need some sort of power amplifier as the brains to process all the audio and video signals, to give you the ports to connect up to all your speakers, and to provide the power needed to drive them. But when you get to the high end, you start to realize that you're going to get better performance if you split this functionality into multiple boxes. So having a completely separate box dedicated just to processing and upgrading your audio signals, and then another just for upgrading your video signals. And that's what we've introduced with this setup. So we tested it.
Any carrier in the sector, please respond.
Dear my bones. It's actually quite hard to describe to you how ridiculously impressive this second setup was. Like, my legs were actually shaking when the bass notes hit. Okay, so tier 3. Ooh.
Wow.
Whoa. Now, as you can probably tell, I was trying to keep my cool, because, you know, you never want to get too excited around people trying to sell you stuff, but my God. I mean, this might just be the prettiest room I've ever seen, full stop. But then the guy introduced me to what this room is really about.
It's actually more to do with the Trinnov. It's an in-house developed system to give you the ultimate bass experience in any room. What it gives you is the seat-to-seat consistency of bass.
I spent about 30 full minutes trying to get to the bottom of what this Trinnov actually is. And long story short, this cinema system, which by the way is priced at £300,000, has 4 powerful subwoofers at the front. Those subwoofers fire out a wave of bass anytime there's a low note in what you're watching or playing, and then the back of the cinema is lined with 4 more of the exact same subwoofers. And this is where it gets interesting, because these are called the absorbing array, which basically sends out the same signal that the front is sending out, but just inverted in order to cancel that sound out, and then slightly delayed by the amount of time that it takes the front sound to reach the back of the room. And so Trinnov is basically the processor that allows super advanced stuff like that to be calculated. But why? Well, essentially to make sure that bass doesn't reverberate. It booms, you feel it in your soul, and it cuts to dead silence again to give you the maximum possible audio dynamic range. The ability for one moment to be explosive and the next to be a whisper. So we had a listen to this absolutely bonkers tier 3 setup, and yeah, I had never experienced anything like that before. The sound was just bonkers. Like, it felt like a sphere around my head, and the music was swimming in my brain. But no, obviously we didn't just see that and then buy that. I mean, we've spent a lot of time in showrooms since then. We've seen screens that can actually extend to match the aspect ratio of your movie or game. We've seen audio processing boxes taller than I am that actually have eyes for some reason. And we've seen seating, my friends. Seating so comfortable that, oh my god, I swear at some points I was physically unable to pay any attention to what the sales guy was telling me. And so, this is what I'm thinking right now. We found a company called Meridian Audio who's going to do our speakers. Out of everything we tried, they were the pinnacle. We're going to end up going for, I'm saying this, but 21 speakers and 12 subwoofers. And then to finish the whole thing off, we managed to find not just an acoustically transparent screen, but also an acoustically transparent fabric that's going to cover every single wall, so you don't see a single speaker. And projector-wise, I initially came into this thinking I was going to get a Sony or a JVC, you know, the consumer-facing brands. But through our travels to these various showrooms, we found this company called Barco, and they usually deal directly with businesses, so I'd never heard of them. But the brightness of those projectors versus the JVCs, it's actually a big difference, maybe because they're designed for bigger commercial cinemas. And the seating, we decided it has to be the masterminds that made this thing right here. And turns out that is a company called Movia, who seem to have a whole load of different base designs and materials, but then they're also completely modular, so you can actually configure the exact arrangement of those designs. This guy's going to fall about the price really adds up when you start adding arrays of speakers.
Hi Aaron, how you doing?
So we've had a look through the quote. We're happy to go ahead with it.
That's brilliant, that's great news. Even small private cinemas that are run by film clubs and stuff like that, very few of them get to this sort of level. It's going to be probably one of the very best private cinemas in this country.
Why don't we take Smash on that?
Now I thought from the point of placing that order, this would be a 1-month job. Yet again, foolish ambition. It actually took 4 months, for a few reasons. We had to tear down every single existing panel on the walls. We had to fit 4 ceiling speakers, 12 subwoofers, and 17 wall speakers, which, to be honest, the only crazier thing than hearing that number is seeing it. Remember, every one of these speakers contains multiple speaker codes. Then we had to refit new panels on top in a very carefully controlled combination of super high quality noise isolation pads with the very best sound diffusion panels we could find, all painted black and then finished with our acoustically transparent black fabric going around the whole room. And then finally, because the team who was building it had to do a lot of testing, constantly tweaking the arrangement of things, using this multi-array microphone to check the results at each stage, until it was just perfect. And that is now. Inside this room is one of the greatest cinema room and gaming rooms ever created. I haven't even tested it yet. We're about to do it together on camera, and I am about to pee myself with excitement. So I'm going to take you go around the room like this, and it's just going to keep building. Starting with the console cabinet. Weirdly, this is one of my proudest achievements ever. We started out with a plain cutout in the wall, and we quickly realized two issues. One, that all the consoles are different heights, so you have a ton of wasted space. The bigger issue was cables. We had like 30 different cables trailing all over the place. Because I am obsessive to an annoying level, I didn't just want the consoles to be powered on. I wanted to create a space where every single controller of every console is also always plugged in, always fully charged. And so, with a bunch of carefully placed plinths, false walls, and shelves, we have actually pulled that off. You basically can't see a cable. So, what hardware did we go for? Well, from left to right, you can see we've got 4 PlayStation 5 Slims. There's actually a very good reason for that, which we'll get into. But what I want to show you now is one of the key problems that we were trying to avoid, which is, what console does this controller connect to? Then I remembered that Sony themselves actually sell alternate colored plates, and then realized that they also sell controllers that matched to the color of those plates. So yeah, one thing led to another, and now we have 4 color-matched PS5s, which is just surreal. There's the PlayStation Portal here, which again, does actually charge here. It's like secretly connected magnetically to a very stealthy cable behind it. This is a console that's had a little bit of a character on it. When it first released, I thought, wow, that's a very overpriced, empty piece of hardware. But as soon as you have really good, stable internet, and also you have a specific use case for it in mind, it can be a game changer, like it is in this set. This thing plays a pivotal role in what we're trying to do here. And this is a 1TB Xbox Series X. This is basically just for Halo. I've been obsessed with Halo ever since I was like 10 years old. And since Halo already has 4-player split screen on one console, it'd be absolutely silly to get 4 Xboxes. Also, I absolutely love the Razer chargers we've got for all the Xbox and PlayStation remotes. We went through a lot of different ones with RGB lighting, ones that tried to match the signs of the consoles. Nothing beats the look, the feel, and the quality of these. And then, of course, we have the Nintendo Switch camera. And as silly as it does feel to have this little tablet that's like a third of the power of a modern-day phone, Nintendo makes great things. And the fact that on just one of these things you can have 8 people playing multiplayer games at 60 frames per second will forever be an embarrassment to everything on that side. Gotta love the opportunity. And then in here, this has always been a dream of mine to do. So, for a long time we've used these knockoff Nintendo Switch Pro controllers. They're very customizable, they're fun to look at, but they're a little cheap and you can kind of tell. And somehow 3 of the 4 of those controllers I use have managed to develop some form of joystick grip. Not this time. I wanted to do everything in this house to its highest possible standard. We wanted to have the best controllers with also the best customization. So, every single one of these Switch controllers is an official Nintendo Switch Pro controller, but custom painted by Colorware. And I cannot believe how good it's turned out. Oh yeah, and the final thing in this console cover seems really boring, but is actually so cool. This is an HDMI matrix. So this connects every single output device, like PlayStation and Xbox and Nintendo Switch, with every single input device in the Switch.
Sunshine, it's time to go to Grammys.
So every single device in this entire room is allocated to one of these numbers, and then you just tap these buttons to decide
time to go to
which
Grandma's.
those devices can
7
display their
o'clock.
image on. Now,
Come on, honey bun. Come on, little honey bun. Time to wake up.
now, up here, we've got 2 side cabinets. So these were not here when we first got the house. We got them made because there's a few extra things that we wanted to add to this room. Starting with the tech shelf. Now, to most people, this is probably going to look like a dumpster fire, but I'm hoping, given that you're watching this video, you will see this for the art piece that it is. So these 2 are making sure that every